Hello, darkness, my old friend.
No, it's not darkness, it's summer solstice. Happy
It
summer
is.
solstice to everybody.
Brightest day of the year. You know, we really should be talking about druids, but that's not what we're going to talk about today.
We could do if we had time.
We can talk about druids later, but first, the topic of the day is Canada representing. No, it isn't, but hello, Fuke. Great to see you at the start of the stream. Let's just quickly run through the hellos. So, yes, we all hate touch screens and are addicted to them. Hi, Scott Poe.
Hello, Scott.
You should know about it by now. We're here every Friday.
I think maybe he was being sarcastic that time.
And Fuke says, how come the names of people in the chat that stand out in my memory are Ronnie and Scott? There has to be more active people in the chat to make it so awesome, right? Yes, there are. We have many awesome regulars and we love you. Hello, Ronnie.
Hello, Ronnie.
And hello, Phil.
Hello, Phil.
You forgot Phil there, Fuke. But we do have a list of the most awesome people in the world.
Yes.
These people right here, they're always on screen, on stream. In the background,
Why are they the most awesome people in the world?
Why don't you take it? It's because this is a new T-shirt I've got you. How about that?
Well, I purchased it for me.
What the
Oh, yeah. See that is
this
now part
is
of the T-shirt
yes,
design.
You'll
right.
have to hold it.
Right, guys, you heard. So now I'm going to be parading your names in public as well. So these are the most awesome people in the world who are subscribed as patrons or patrons. Depending.
Patreons, not patrons. That's
patrons.
Patreon.
This happens every friggin' time.
Welcome back, says.
But without these people, without their support, we couldn't really do this. So please consider being a patron if you like, and you can get behind the scenes stuff and us being stupid when we're not stupid on camera and things. But anyway, these are the people whom we have as that thing that is pronounced in various different ways. Russell Higgins, Jolly Mangina, Ormba, Mark Threlfall, Brandon Fishwick, Dave Poirier, Fuke Enterprises, that Canadian over there, Phil, and
that
Elizabeth
over there.
Chai Practical, indeed. We're talking about Phil, by the way. And Nate Hanshin, so thank you very much to all of you. You are the most awesome people in the world because we get to decide that.
Yes, we are the judge, jury, and executioner on that.
Well,
now,
no,
today's top...
people.
Spoil all the fun.
Can we first say who we are as well, because we haven't yet done that?
He's Jason.
And she's Becky.
It's true.
And we are a pair of geeks.
We are. We're a pair of geeks. Now, I want to dive straight into the topic so that we don't lose loads of viewers.
Okay.
All right. Our opening topic is, I honestly don't, what did we call this one? Fame and fortune in world building. Yes, we're going to talk about celebrities.
Celebrities.
And that is because it's Pride Month.
Well, it is. What's the link, though?
Celebrities.
Well, okay. Yes, there are.
Hollywood. Right. Let's just catch up on the chat quickly.
Hello,
okay,
Says.
So, yes, Says is back. Awesome, from California.
California.
So, representing. I do love the way our audience says where they're from as well. It's kind of this.
Yeah,
we're seeing how far we reach. It's wicked.
International.
It's nice. It's nice to know that we're touching other parts of the world.
By the way, I should probably mention happy winter solstice if you're in the southern hemisphere.
Nobody representing the Southern Hemisphere has said anything in the chat so far, so screw those guys, you're slacking.
Yes.
Yeah, bring it.
Yes.
I challenge you to represent Southern Hemisphere.
I see in the chat, not coming up though, we have AJ. So there we go. So we do have somebody
the Southern
in the
Hemisphere is representing. Hello, AJ.
Hopefully you're keeping warm.
Right, now, the big topic is
Fame and fortune.
Fame and fortune. We're going to talk about celebrities in world building, and obviously, this is part of Pride Month, because Hollywood is all about that. So, how can it and how should it, or how could it? There we go. How could it affect your world building in a positive way? So, I've got some thoughts on this. In fact, I've been doing it in a recent game. And I've done it before in previous games where my players have become well known. But I've been doing it where not the players are well known. I thought this was an interesting twist. On it's a campaign you're playing in on the real life group.
Yes.
Now, if I said there's famous people in that world, you're playing in that game. Who would you say is I'm sorry that my nail just slicing your arm. Who would you say is the famous people in that world?
The Silver Sisters.
So that came across awesome. So
they're bloody annoying, but yes, they're like
they are.
people seem to revere them. Oh well, the Seven Sisters say this. Ooh, well, yes, but they've decided this.
Did you say the Seven Sisters?
I keep thinking they're called the Seven Sisters.
Yeah, no,
I don't know why.
That's the Cliffs of Dover, basically.
Yes, there's also a song I know called the Seven Sisters.
Okay, so the Silver Sisters are an adventuring group that pre-existed in the world for, so at session 1, the players came across the Silver Sisters. And it wasn't just that they met the Silver Sisters, but people were listening to the Silver Sisters when the players wanted people to do things. Yeah. People would listen to what the Silver Sisters told them to do. We had
way better ideas than the Silver Sisters. This is why we dislike them.
So, yes, they're an adventuring group that are established and famous. And I thought this was interesting because I thought during the course of the campaign, obviously your adventuring group is likely to become more well-known. And maybe that'll be positive, maybe that'll be negative, depending on what you do. But then, of course, you've got this other bunch of celebrities coming along, which is you guys, as you gain fame and stuff. And I thought that would make for an interesting dynamic within the campaign. But of course, I don't yet know who the big... Well, I know who the big bad is.
You do, because you said we apparently...
You have met one of the big bads, but there's more than... I don't... Look, this is a sandbox campaign, and this is something, actually, I know came up in a conversation this week on one of the big groups, but this is a sandbox campaign, and when I do sandbox, I like to have more than one big bad. The biggest, most evilest bad you have met, and you can't work out who that is yet, can you?
No, it's really annoying. I've gone through every single thing we did last session, and it's like, we definitely had a conversation with them. Oh, yes.
No, you definitely met them.
But did we have a conversation with them?
I never said that.
Okay, right. So we met them. Okay.
Right. Anyway, let's quickly catch up with the chat. So, if I can click buttons, says topic is celebrities, and AJ Pickett is here.
Yes.
Yes, AJ is a very well established YouTuber and very well known. But hello.
Hi.
God damn. Overshadowed on our own channel.
How's the Californian weather today? Raining avocados.
Mustafa Borna Simsek. Hello.
Hello, Mustafa.
I don't recognise your avatar or name at all, so welcome to the channel. I'm gonna disappear off camera. I need to see this avatar up close because I'm trying to work out.
It looks like a comic strip or something like that.
How can you see that from there?
Because I have decent prescription lenses.
This is why I'm sat on the left now. I did this surreptitiously before the stream, but I normally sit this side, and I'm like...
It's a chilly 7 a.m. in the Southern Hemisphere.
Well, not through all of it. I mean, Australia's got 5 time zones. And then New Zealand is in a different one again. And I'm not sure if it's adjacent to
No.
Australia.
Southern Hemisphere, chilly. That's what I meant. I'm talking about the chilly, not the 7 a.m.
Right. On with the chat. Representing Turkey. Awesome. We're reaching far and wide this time. Hello, James. Welcome back.
Hey.
First day of summer. We did have a hot spell a few weeks back before all the rain.
But this is technically the first day of summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, summer solstice. Yeah, oddly mild weather. Yeah, it was pretty nice. It's clouded over again today.
Welcome to Pair of Geeks, where you can get your international weather report.
Yeah, but we're English. We always talk about the weather because it changes so much.
We'll let AJ answer that. He did.
I know a hilarious song called Suddenly New Zealand.
Ronnie has asked an on-topic question.
Yes, he has.
I enjoy using famous people in the world as the players are still finding their feet, as it gives some flavour to the world, as long as those celebs don't become a Deus Ex Machina.
Yes, unless you're maybe doing something comical with it in that they sort of turn up, kind of like an Arnold Schwarzenegger type thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I played in a campaign when I was younger where, and I started calling this at the time, I called it Gold Dragoning, and it was because of this particular game, where every encounter we had, a gold dragon came in to rescue us.
Oh, right.
Because we just weren't up to the encounters the GM was giving. And you're absolutely right. I mean, that kills the game regardless. And I understand why that's kind of related to this topic, but at the same time, it's kind of a different thing in its own right. But yeah, it is something that you absolutely must avoid is saving the players. But what do you do? Which, if you're in the situation where you've accidentally brought about a TPK in an otherwise uneventful scene, and you've accidentally kind of messed it up, do you Deus Ex Machina, or do you let the dice fall where it may?
Oh, you're asking me that right now?
Well, I mean, I have
give
a
an answer.
solution to this problem myself, but I'm curious as to what other people do.
Well, I'm not a fan of TPKs at all.
So what do you do
Unless
if you
the characters
accidentally...
really want there to be a TPK.
If you create an encounter and the players are losing, how do you respond to that?
With story, in that it makes it feel like they are losing, but through some form or another, I get them to win. Either not necessarily through like a Deus Ex Machina thing, but maybe they find a weakness that they didn't know about with the big bad before, or maybe something happens, like there's maybe some kind of conflict that the big bad has with something else they didn't know about.
If they're fighting a big bad, I actually don't mind the players dying.
Oh, if we're talking like
But
final
if
boss,
it's a yard trash, if it's an encounter before the end, then I'm totally against the players dying there, unless they're on their own personal hero's journey and it happens to have completed. That I don't like players or characters dying midway through an arc. That's not the right time to kill a character.
But yeah. If it's the final boss, then absolutely.
Yeah.
If they die, then they die.
Now, one of the ways I solve that is I don't. First of all, my idea of hit points can change during the course of the fight. If I know that a creature has 200 hit points at the start of the fight, it might turn out to only have 80. That's the first thing. Now, that can be difficult to fake per se if there's lots of monsters in a scene.
Yeah.
So if you've got 10 orcs and you've established that your orcs have 50 hit points, it then becomes a bit tricky to say, oh, they're dying after only 1 or 2 hits, because that wouldn't feel right. But here's the thing. If the world is to feel real at all, let's say me and a group of 9 of our friends, perhaps yourself included, are going out and we bump into a bunch of player character, I suppose, aliens or orcs or whatever, right, in the real world. If one of us goes down, that might well be the end of the fight right there.
Yeah.
And maybe those monsters have personal relationships, and when a certain influential member of the group goes down, that changes the whole dynamic of the encounter. And it might not have seemed that orc was important at the time that the players engaged with them. But if it looks like the players are losing, and I can drop an orc, and I'll be like, I'll have some reaction there from the other orcs, where they're realising they might start to defend a particular orc, and I'll start introducing...
There's also the option of them fleeing.
There's running away and surrendering, but if it looks like they're winning, that also then might be hard to convey. But one of the key tricks I do is I actually don't start my encounters off at maximum difficulty. I actually start them off essentially in easy mode. So at the start of that encounter, it's actually too easy for the party, and then I'll toughen it up midway through. I then add the complications, and I know what complications I'm looking to add. So basically at the start of a session, I'll have defined an encounter that has usually my main encounter of a session will have some kind of puzzle or problem to solve within that encounter, and I will toughen that up during the encounter to challenge you. And like if you solve something too easy, I might throw in another thing, just to mix things up and add that complexity. I am completely okay with introducing an encounter that's too easy. I think this was mentioned in our last session, or not that our audience heard it, but in our last campaign, the adventurers went into a Dracolich's lair. Now, one of the mini bosses in that lair was a gigantic skeleton. Like I used the Reaper Bones one. That's that model that's like that big, and it towers over everything else that is in there, surrounded by a horde of undead stuff. And the characters came up with a plan. They prepared for it. They went in and they were fighting this mini boss, and it was looking too easy. But I also in there had a Jabberwocky for reasons related to plot that I'm not going to go into. So they had this Vorpal butter knife that they were trying to take the Jabberwocky out with.
I remember the Vorpal butter knife.
Yeah. So they're dealing with this, and it's all under control. And I'm like, this is too easy. Good, because I aim to make it too easy. So once it looks like they've got it all under control and the problems are all solved, the Dracolich decides that it's not going to wait for these people invading its lair. It's going to arrive now whilst they're still dealing with the mini bosses and breaks down a wall from the side of their. So they're within a miniature environment. They've got walls, they've got doors and stuff like that. The Dracolich bursts in through the wall, completely surprising them and totally changing the dynamic of the encounter. And it goes from something that was easily controlled to now they're in a panic, now they're up against it, and now they're fighting a boss, and that means it's potential they could die. So, and that's the way I prefer to do it. So I start easy and I ramp it up, rather than accidentally, realizing I've done this wrong.
We have gone a bit off topic.
Very off topic.
Yeah, I was being tactful. It's a blast furnace scene noon. I was going to say, isn't it something like 42 degrees Celsius or something ridiculous, 100 Fahrenheit?
That sounds like a cold day from Arizona's reputation. Well, like
42 degrees.
Yeah, because Arizona's so blisteringly hot all the time that. Anyway,
it cools sort of a little bit.
So James Breeden says people from around the world in the chat from Indiana, US. Yeah, and it's great to hear where you're all from. I love it. So. Rainy in Alberta. Fuchs says, what about using famous fiction people? Am I wrong that my mayor is based on Bert Gummer from
Tremors series? Gold Dragoning sounds like Gandalf saves the party.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not wrong to draw on characters from fiction or even real world people to inspire NPCs,
Well, yes, because I have a celebrity.
Oh?
Yes, in my Cthulhu one-shot I ran for the expo, Edward Elgar.
Indeed.
For those of you who don't know who that is, an incredibly influential English composer at the turn of the 20th century.
Yeah. So, and you actually used him as a character rather than just basing a new character off of him.
Oh, yeah. I delved right into his history, and the other sort of main NPCs were also real people who knew him.
That's the thing you can do with Cthulhu. It's less something you can do with fantasy.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Now, I have seen Tremors many years ago. I don't particularly remember the mayor character.
I've never seen it at all, I'm afraid.
It's, if I remember right, was it Charlie Sheen?
Oh, yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen, blimey, that goes back a bit.
Yeah. Presumably before he just turned into cocaine.
Yes.
But that's an interesting thing about celebrity, isn't it? The chances of going off the rails.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that in a minute, because I want to kind of answer Fuchs' question.
Yes, of course.
No, I mean, like, when you're coming up with an NPC, I mean, quite often, even if you're playing a player character, you know, basing them off of real world people and influences is absolutely fine, and it's a good way of memorizing how to play a particular NPC.
Yes, that's a very good point, because you know there's infinite combinations of NPCs, but sometimes I struggle, especially when improvising of like, oh, what's this NPC like, and let's not just make them some anonymous person. But yeah, if you pull off things that are already pre-existing, it's way easier.
Yeah, I mean, like, if I'm during a session and I need to create an NPC on the fly, but I also want to know I need to remember that NPC later, I might, in my mind, decide, okay, this NPC is a bit like Mahatma Gandhi. And then I know I've got a prototype of what to work to when playing that character and an easy way to recall it. So yeah, absolutely, you know, do that. And yes, Gold Dragoning absolutely is Gandalf saving the party and so on. And stealing all the XP for himself.
Yeah, the bastard. AJ says... Oh, now you're joking. Okay.
My
AJ
turn.
says, in my games, the famous NPCs are either retired or out doing famous things. They rarely get directly involved, and anytime they do, the players typically hate them just on principle.
Yeah.
Hey, kitty.
Well, that was the thing with the Silver Sisters. I mean, you got an apocalypse going on, so the Silver Sisters are there, but they don't consider the players really anything other than potential recruits and errand people for the boring stuff they don't want to do, which of course just increases that antagonising.
The thing that annoys me the most about them is they were there with us during this big siege. We took care of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And they just watched from the high tower of like, oh yes.
But they didn't, though, did they? Because they're the ones that actually summoned the gods.
They did, but I also, I believe, summoned a demon as well with that scroll.
Yes, that was helpful.
Just saying. Yes, it was. I don't remember if it worked or not.
I mean, as plans go, we're being attacked by the legions of hell. I'll summon a demon. That'll help.
I thought I could control it, and okay, because I thought, look, if I'm fucking summoning it, then it's going to obey me and stuff. But no,
Yeah, there's
apparently
rolls
not.
for that.
Yes, now I realise, because yes, demons, you got to roll from. At least it wasn't
I was
metagaming.
very kind to you by having that go off in a lateral direction.
You were, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I love what famous people do to the worlds, and of course, every world has famous people. You know, even before newspapers and the concept of celebrity, there were still people that were known throughout the land. You know, even if it was the king or queen or whatever.
Well, I was just about to say, because obviously you've got your famous adventurers and stuff, but then you've got your royalty, you've got your politicians, you've got your church figures or temple figures that are famous.
Yeah, I mean, like if you go back before newspapers and things, priests are famous in essence.
Oh yeah.
Bards would travel from village to village carrying news, and you know they're the storytellers and such, and that convey what's going on in the world. And
you might also have really famous gamblers, for example, renowned gamblers who always win at something, you know.
Yeah, potentially, because legends travel. You know,
Yeah.
somebody tells a story, and by the time it's got 3 or 4 villages over, it's been exaggerated and stuff.
Or you might be, or one character might be sort of fairly normal, but something happens to them, and just out of luck, they maybe survive. Like they're struck by a lightning bolt, but they survive. Or something to that extent, and maybe, as you said, it's sort of blown up out of proportion. So, were they really struck by lightning, or what? You know.
Yeah, by the time that story's settled, they've climbed Mount Olympus and taken on Odin in an arm wrestle.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Right.
I was thinking of my head of state NPC.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think most people's games have like some kind of politician or ruler, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad.
Well, that's the thing, because a lot of the time you sort of get a king or whatever who is the good person who kind of grants the rewards when they get.
In fairness,
famous
most of
enough.
my rulers have turned out to be evil.
Yes, I
and
know, but
manipulative.
in the sort of really generic kind of adventures, you get some kind of ruler who gives the players rewards for going off and doing something for them. But yeah, in my instance, the entire city was dystopian. So everyone knew of this person at the top. So of course the players would see them as the bad character.
Yeah. But
So
I mean,
she had this reputation about her.
I have to say though, if I ever do a royal sending you off to do a mission, you know the next thing that's going to be happen is that mission turns out to be morally questionable.
I hope so.
Every time.
Another memorable famous person. Well, I was going to say queen, but should I say princess of England?
I'm in the corporation game.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that wasn't. I mean, in the corporation game, you actually experienced celebrity yourselves as characters, not because your characters were well known, but because of your job. Like you had people in the world responded to you differently once they realised that you were an agent.
Yes, that's true. But the agents aren't really a celebrity status. They're more just
Can be.
people. Yeah, but we weren't that very high ranked, to
No,
be fair.
you weren't, which is why you didn't get the full celebrity treatment until the very
Yes,
end.
That's true, yes.
But when people realised you were an agent, so this is in our corporation game, people reacted to the players in a kind of, oh my god, I just met a James Bond type way. Like
Yeah.
they didn't know your name, but they knew you were an agent, and it had that impact on.
Yeah, so
very
James Bond, if
people.
you're like rank 1, if you're rank 10, it's like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Ronnie has said he has no problem with TPKs, he doesn't seek them out, but he doesn't avoid them either. As the GM, he places an encounter he feels they can handle, but if they don't, sad, but it happens.
Yeah, but if you've planned story arcs and you've set seeds for things, you don't want to throw that away on a meaningless encounter.
There are ideas you can let go, but if it's fundamental, at least to the plot,
and if the point at which those characters are dying isn't a good closure for narrative, then I don't like killing players in those
absolutely not.
circumstances.
No. Well, that's what I was saying. In that, unless characters or PCs want to have some kind of
I mean
premature death.
there's times for it, but that's when you've completed your hero's journey, and stuff, and you've gone through all those arcs, and not that you have to structure every adventure and every character's story in a literary way.
No,
but those techniques definitely help tell a more compelling story together. So
we've got quite a lot of chat to get through.
oh, cool. So Fuke says, in my game, a player wants the mayor dead just to get his white horse. Wow, that is greed. That is absolute greed.
Yeah.
I think there's a hero's journey to be had there.
Maybe white horses are quite rare in Fuchs adventures.
Just pause a moment on that, because I mean, this is something players sometimes do, isn't it? Like they'll fixate on something.
Yes.
And
But then big bads do as well. They fixate on something where people would think, why?
but the players are kind of meant to be the heroes in most RPG games. But something like that, where a player wants that white horse and is willing to consider killing the mayor.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that kind of makes that player the big bad, really, doesn't it? In a way. I mean, you don't know what the mayor's done and what the other things going on in the story.
If you're into black and white alignments, I suppose.
Well, no, I prefer the shades of grey, but that's somebody planning to kill someone over a horse.
Yes. maybe this horse has a cure for cancer, for all we know.
So AJ says, player casts fireball in a small room full of barrels of lamp oil. That's a TPK.
Yeah, that's just a player being a bit stupid,
but
really.
if you have not established that it's lamp oil, if you've just decided it's lamp oil,
Yeah, exactly.
and you haven't established it, then don't make it lamp oil.
No.
When the player casts the fireball.
No.
That would be my thing. You
No.
know?
Or if you really want it to be lamp oil, in that kind of instance, I would at least say to the character or PC, "Are you sure? Are you sure?"
I mean, it's just, for me, it comes down to narrative. Like, even in a group that, like, some of the groups we play in are more narrative than others, and if I'm in a less narrative group, who enjoys killing a character off because of yard trash? There's not much to be gained from it.
Well, it's the same from like a crappy dice roll.
But as
or
AJ said,
something.
if somebody does something absolutely suicidal, then you've got to have the consequences of that. Players can't be protected from their actions. They
No.
have to deal with their
No.
consequences. But if it's simply a case of, I know that's lamp oil,
and the
and-
players don't.
yeah, and it's not established fact within the narrative, then it's not going to be lamp oil if a fireball gets cast
Yeah.
in my game. Fuke says, higher level non-bad guy NPCs, in my opinion, should have too much red tape to get involved.
I'm interested to know why.
It's not necessarily about getting involved in the adventure. It's about them existing in the world and being relevant. Like, people will like take moral stories from the actions of heroic deeds, like Hercules. People extrapolate morals from his tales, yet what if Hercules in your world was an actual character? And some of those legends are maybe exaggerated now, but at the time the stories were fairly, exceptional because they're stories that everyone knows, but they hadn't yet grown in that magnitude and stuff.
You may wonder why I was sort of contorting my face there a bit, but I was trying to remember that sort of chapter, if you will, of Disenchanted, which I thought was...
the Matt Groening cartoon.
Yeah, which I thought this bit was a game run by you or something, but it's the bit, when the royal family go and visit that other royal family.
Oh, yeah.
And there's sort of that whole thing of, like, the culture and stuff. In the... I suppose that there is that kind of angle you could go with as well.
Go with that angle in what way? Sorry, give me...
Well, in terms of non-bad guy but high-level people getting involved, in that, kind of like we talked about a bit with the estate, even if the players don't directly visit these people, they still have influence on what happens.
Their words and deeds might serve as moral lessons for other NPCs in the world.
Yeah, and in that part, I believe they needed to marry each other or something like that. Or there was some kind of alliance that they had to forge, I believe.
Oh, in Disenchanted, yeah.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it was such a forgettable show.
Yeah, it was actually.
Just characters weren't very well developed. So, and I agree, because ultimately you want your players to be the big heroes of this story. But who was the big hero of the last story to be told in this world that the players then get compared to? I mean...
You're always going to have somebody.
Keanu Reeves is currently the darling of the internet, but, he's getting compared to now Shaggy, and then before Shaggy it was Chuck Norris, and, as these sort of idol darlings of the internet.
Yeah, but there's others as well.
Truth is, Keanu is obviously incomparable.
Let's have a look.
So Scott says...
I don't know the number in Celsius, but I love the deadly heat. I thought that Dracolich anecdote was on topic, or at least it was brilliant.
Well, thank you very much.
From what I know, in Arizona at the moment, it is about 42 to 45 degrees.
Enough to turn the average person into a Dracolich.
Yeah, I would totally burn in that heat.
Ronnie says Tremors was Kevin Bacon.
Oh, Kevin Bacon, right, yeah,
and
yeah,
Fred
yeah.
Ward, and was an extremely funny horror comedy. I knew it was a big actor. I did sequels as well. I think I saw a second one. Did I?
I don't
Have I
know.
seen
Why,
the second
would
premise?
I know without
I
that
don't know.
answer?
Well, does it exist?
Good question.
So, says, talking to Fuke, says, since I'm terrible at creating characters, all of my NPCs are really just my best impersonations of television, movie, character personalities. Example, Town Elder
Christopher Walken.
But you know what? That's perfect. That's all I do. Except I often do a mix. So I might do Christopher Walken / Gandhi, right? Or maybe I'll take the voice and accent from one famous person, and the actions and morality of another. You know, it doesn't even need to be somebody that famous. Just somebody you can recall when you need to later. So no, don't feel ashamed of that. Says you're doing it fine. It's fine. It's great.
The thing is, people are either not going to notice, so it's fine, or if they do notice, they'll enjoy the reference. I'm sure.
And it kind of adds something to that character.
Yeah, exactly. Should retired adventurers always have a ton of fortune? No.
Absolutely.
I mean,
not.
you know, if you're retired from adventuring, you might find life really boring. You might throw it all away on gambling or something, or you might say, I don't know, get scammed by some highway person and lose all your money. You know, anything could happen.
Yeah.
There was was it during one of my games, or no, it was during one of Red Dice Diaries games where there was this like beggar who'd gone sort of a bit blind in the street, and I believe he did used to be quite an adventurous type, but that's what he'd been reduced to because he got old, because he couldn't walk very well, and that was a really cool touch.
The adventuring life in the sort of classic D&D sense is really, it's a mid-20s thing. You know, you get to your mid-30s and you're slower.
Dare I say as well, the whole took an arrow in the knee thing. You know, if you lose a limb, or if you attract some kind of rare disease because you picked up a mushroom.
Yeah, but that's always at odds in a fantasy world, isn't it? Where you got magical healing.
I'm just sort of giving some examples. But what I mean is that if you survive, you possibly won't be able to carry on
seen
being
things.
event. Yeah,
You've seen maybe got PTSD.
Yeah, traumatized, absolutely.
Yeah, you become the crazy Merlin in the woods, shouting obscenities at passers-by.
Yeah, maybe you're just kept in stocks all the time and just humiliated.
We talked before about how terrifying skeletons should be. Like, if you were a skeleton right now, I wouldn't still be sat here holding this glass.
No. There's also, the idea of, like, a famous celebrity because they're a prisoner, or because there's some mad person in a town.
Yeah, I wanted to cover this. The notorious celebrity.
Like, what's he called? In Firefly, Stitch, for example.
Yeah, well, he's not famous, per se.
No.
Prior to the incidents in...
No, true, but imagine if he'd been, like, on show for all that time, and what's his name, Higgins, you know, told the Mudders all about him, and, oh, look at this terrible person, and this, that, and the other.
There are notorious people, though, who are famous for their you know, horrendous crimes. You know, Myra Hindley, Shipman, what was his first name? Alan Shipman, I think, or something. You know, the Cray twins, you know, the
Mother Teresa.
Controversial, but true. So, yeah, you know, but also, sometimes famous people add to the lexicon. And sometimes people are... Well, alright, so, on that topic, Fanny Adams was a young girl who was murdered, and there was Begor left of her. So her name became a kind of an abbreviation for all, because, you know, the initials were the same, and because of the story, the horrific story of what happened to her, and it turned out a clerk of the court had murdered her, and, you know, he became at the time very notorious in the press. You know, it was very, because I think that happened near the start of the printing press as well, when she was killed.
Right.
But that's where the term Fanny Adams comes from. So her name got added to the lexicon of the British people.
But she's more of a victim.
She was a victim.
Well, she
Yeah.
was a victim. But what I mean is, rather than like a prisoner or something, like a display piece for whoever. You could even have somebody who committed a very small crime, or maybe didn't even do anything at all. Maybe they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or the right time.
So
they're framed.
And all of these things, I think, help to build a richer and more believable world. Let's catch up on the chat.
Yes. Mr. Eldar, what system do you run?
Elgar.
Oh, Elgar.
I think, unless there's somebody in the chat with the name of Eldar. Oh, yes, no, Says has that as a last name, yes.
I can't remember. I'm sure they mentioned a system last time.
Also,
yeah.
Notorious Criminals and Pirates are famous. I mean, and, sometimes piracy wasn't illegal. Drake was a pirate, Sir Francis Drake. He was officially commissioned by the Queen to do piracy.
To do stuff, yes.
As long as he did it to Spanish ships. And that in a way was kind of the British Navy at the time. So, so Ronnie says not necessarily. Oh, so there's a conversation going on here. So Ronnie says not necessarily Fuke. Indeed, a story hook could easily be the fact that you have a great hero who is penniless, as they are terrible at keeping their cash.
Yeah, what I was going to say.
We all know that there's always one dwarf in the party that goes women and beer and
yeah, but why is it always a dwarf? But like, for example, it doesn't matter who you are. If you get fame, fortune, treasure, and all that stuff, yeah, maybe it does get the better of you. Maybe you say, I'll spend it on this. I'll buy a castle and all of that.
Not everyone can handle fame as well.
No, and maybe people try and get rid of that whole fame by, I don't know, doing something catastrophic with it.
And then you get people who just take it to the either disappearing or absolutely abusing that celebrity status until they've taken it too far. And become from celebrity to notorious. Fuke says, but
Bert Gummer.
Bert Gummer from Tremors is the gun-nut, paranoid conspiracy theorist who is in every Tremors movie, TV show, and I made him my mayor. I mean, I approve. I think that's a fantastic character for a mayor. Because it'd be quite unpredictable. Oh, yes, I need to redo the chat.
So why don't we put on the thing?
The thing?
The thing!
Do you mean this thing?
Yes.
Just before we get the chat back up.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes, Complus 2, because we just showed a Complus 2 graphic
than
a Pair of Geeks graphic. That is because we are running the Complus 2 charity RPG convention this October, the 11th to October the 13th. The event sign-up will be opening in the coming months. You can go to complus.live and learn about the convention now. Last week's video, we showed a lot of the physical prizes that we're giving away. We will be giving away more than that. There was one other that we did already have, though, that I kind of forgot because we just received it and I left it downstairs. And there were so many prizes, I just kind of didn't realise this wasn't in the pile. So this is Osric. They're returning as a sponsor again this year. It is signed by Stuart Marshall.
See, we know a celebrity.
And Osric is the original retro clone. It was the first retro clone to come out. It started the retro clone movement, and it is really first edition D&D. That's the only way to put it. It's in its second edition. The changes really are sort of corrections and typos and alterations and stuff. And I have played Osric to death. I love this game. And
so Thaco your way to the website right now.
I hate that rule. I hate the Thaco system.
Yeah, but
It's first edition.
I thought that would
If
be
you
a
want
good
to
joke.
reminisce, this is how you reminisce with RPGs.
I still thought that would be a good joke.
Yes.
Thaco.
So yeah, we'll be giving that away to amongst all the other prizes you saw last week. If you want to see the rest of them, check out last week's video.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, Talking to Fuke says, a mix between D&D, 5e, Oh, this is
Dungeon
the
Crawl
system that
Classics,
says runs, yeah. 15 years experience and democratic collaboration with my players. I call it D&D 5th-ish edition. I
like
think
it.
that's true for most of us, though. I mean,
Yeah.
we all kind of do our own kind of quirks and takes on it, don't
Yeah, yeah.
we? Like,
But
I
that's-
don't have long rests.
Mr. Eldar, how do I at you on mobile?
I don't know how
It's-
DMs work on YouTube chat, actually, on that.
No, I think there is
No
a way
idea.
to do it. But yes, I'll let them do that amongst themselves. Things are
Okay.
getting heated up. Scott says, disguise monsters as out-of-character NPCs or totally in-character with hidden motivations. Have a hat who is friendly enough, but any favour she asks of you that you agree to become
A geese.
what's a geese?
A geese is it's like a compulsion, like you can have a geese put on you.
Okay.
In fact,
I've never heard
if
of a
I
geese.
remember rightly, I think it's a spell in first edition that I happen to have right here.
This is where I feel very young.
I think it was. I'm just checking now. Geese. Yes.
Is
Right.
There's the geese least to beat.
This
the
is what a
geese.
geese is. A geese, sorry, it's arcane enchantment / charm. Level, magic user 6th.
I assume that's
Range,
pretty high.
touch. Duration, see below. Area of effect, 1 creature. It is verbal and semantic. The casting time is 4 segments. Ah, yes. Time in first edition was a nightmare. You had segments, turns, and rounds.
Okay.
And they were different. So segments is a fraction of. No, which is the shortest, round or turn? A turn I think was 10 minutes, and a round I think was 1 minute,
Okay.
if I remember rightly.
And segments with a minute.
No.
No, within a minute.
It's yes, but your turn is always 1 minute.
Mhm.
The segments I think was an initiative thing from memory. Oh, just trying to remember now. So a geese is a
Sounds
magical
silly.
compulsion placed upon an intelligent creature to perform or refrain from performing some task set by the caster. While the geese cannot compel suicide or its equivalent, it is a very powerful spell. If the creature under the geese avoids or is prevented from performing the task, it will sicken and die within 1d4 weeks if the task is not resumed. The disease will, of course, create symptoms that the GM will determine. If the geese is resumed, these may or may not remain until the task is completed. Even a remove curse spell will not remove a geese, although a wish spell is powerful enough to dispel it.
Well,
There you go. Everything you wish to know about
That-
geese. We answer the
what's the
question now.
plural of geese? Geeses? Guy? Goo?
Maybe it's just geese apostrophe.
It wasn't really a question. It was more a statement.
Okay. In that case, let's move on.
I was wondering.
Hag,
oh,
not
hag.
hag.
I was wondering if Scott was making a subtle reference to you with your hat.
Harsh. Absolutely harsh. There we go. So Fuke says, on topic question, how do I give characters fame
without
fortune? Well, for a start, they could be notorious criminals. But I think just look at the world around us. And although it is hard now to imagine someone being genuinely famous without then capitalising on that and
Yeah,
becoming
because that's the
wealthy.
kind of world we live in now.
Because we celebrate celebrity in our current culture, but it wasn't always like that. If you go back to the
No.
Victorian times, fame was we didn't celebrate celebrity at all, really. But we did celebrate. Now, what did they call charity? The Victorians had a word for it.
What was in the concept of charity?
Yes.
I don't know.
It's a slightly old-fashioned word now, but it still is a thing, and it's when someone's kind of benevolent to charities and think, Somebody help me remind English words. Right. But they kind of they sort of were more about celebrating that, but in a kind of more modest way.
Yes.
And because culturally different. So yeah, it's an interesting one. And I think you can, like, if you think about, although we mentioned her earlier as a notorious criminal, but think about Mother Teresa, if she actually was genuinely trying to help and be a good person. Even her, though, the wealth followed. But
Yeah.
if you remove the wealth from her story, there you've got somebody who's famous for doing something. And I think charity would be a good way to accomplish that. So have a hospice or an orphanage. There's one in Skyrim where actually it turns out she's abusing the children, but there's that orphanage in Skyrim where that particular woman who runs it, is known in the rest of the town, if I recall.
Yes.
So that's because don't forget, fame doesn't have to be global either; it can be regional.
No, exactly. Another way you could do it without the fortune, or at least prior to them being famous, is if they're kind of they're lifted up in such a way with the situation and they achieve something, like, for example, war heroes.
Yeah,
There are plenty of poor, people from poor backgrounds who become war heroes in, the real world in fiction.
Yeah, and what might happen is they might get knighted or something as a consequence of their heroism.
Or get them, get the Silver Cross or something.
Yeah. Now, because they're then knighted, they can then go on and earn wealth as a knight, but they're not going to start with it.
No, absolutely not. And just off topic, but they're really awesome. But if you like things like that, then listen to Sabaton. And you will learn all about various amazing war heroes like the Night Witchers and that Finnish guy who then went to Germany and then America, so he basically was a soldier for 3 armies before he died.
You might not learn their names, but you'll learn their stories.
Larry Thorne.
Okay.
Larry Thorne, I believe it was called.
Ronnie says, fame, infamy can be the direct result of their actions, Fugue. Word of mouth, songs by bards and minstrels, heralds talking about brave or nefarious deeds will give the PCs fame. And that just gave me an idea, which I think you might have also had.
Well, I was going to say the Sparrow.
Oh, what, Game of Thrones?
He was incredibly poor, but my God, he was famous.
Well, he had immense power and therefore could be as rich as he wanted.
But also he was a huge influencer.
Yes, he was, yes. But Ronnie just gave me an idea. Of course, you can become famous because of songs by bards. What if you were the person that had the last of the good beer that the bard wanted to drink?
Yeah, exactly.
You could become famous without the fortune.
Or maybe there's somebody who, I don't know...
Or you slept with the bard's ex and the bard wasn't over her.
But also remember, bards, they might accept bribes from people, so if you've got somebody who doesn't like you for some reason, they could bribe the bard to actually change the story a little bit.
Yeah, make you either better or worse than what really happened.
Yeah.
Or even just make a story about you.
Indeed.
Because you happened to pass on the road and you had a good time together, passing the time that night as you were resting, and then you went on your way. And, because it might just be the bard just makes up stories and just needed a name and thought of yours. Okay, says Fugue Enterprises. This is the conversation. Well, I deleted all my personal social media accounts back in 2016. Good choice. This YouTube account is the closest I get to social media. And in today's world, that's probably sensible.
Yes.
Fugue says, no, I mean, you're tagging me in your messages. Can't figure out how to return the favour.
It's something to do with the @ sign, but I don't know exactly how it works.
I don't know, especially on the
there you go. Type the @ symbol.
Yeah. I don't know if that works on the mobile or not. So,
maybe
Russell
maybe
Higgins.
not, actually.
Hello, Russell.
Hello, Russell.
Hi.
Thank you for being our patron.
Thank you for being one of the most wonderful people in the world. No, hang on, not one of. The most awesome people in the world. That's what the sign says, and I believe it. So Russell says, actually, if you get to, say, 10th or 11th level, wouldn't people be seeking you out?
Quite
And
possibly.
this is kind of why I wanted to talk about this topic, because I think if you're playing
you
D&D,
mentioned us kind of getting more famous as we, got...
You'll certainly become more known. I mean, so in the campaign we're running, Jason and party are, what, 3rd, 4th level? Or is it
No, we're...
I started you at
yes,
4th.
we're 5th.
I think we started at 4th because you wanted a heroic, epic level
Yes.
campaign.
Yeah, we're
You're
5th.
currently 5th because you've done a few long sessions. So, yeah, you're travelling the world and meeting different races and cultures at the minute as part of what you're doing in your current quest line.
We're converting people.
Yes.
But
you
it kind
met
of-
a god who sent you on the mission to get her followers.
Yeah, but she's going to help us and stuff,
It's a great way for you to see the world that I've spawned in my brain, and yes, you're going forth and you're meeting lots of different influences
And
different
we've
cultures.
already met a bard.
You have Essos the Bard.
The squirrel.
He's a squirrel.
He's a giant
He's
squirrel.
an anthropomorphic squirrel. Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, for me, I don't like D&D 5th beyond about 12th level. Like 12th is epic level as far as I'm concerned, because I think the game's actually quite horrible beyond that.
Yeah, I've not even played up that far.
It just becomes about actions. I mean, I actually had a player create a flowchart
Oh my god.
of their actions.
What class was that?
High
Monk?
level. It was primarily monk, but
that's
with some multi-classing going on. And they created a flowchart for their actions to just so they knew what to do when it was their turn, and it's just no. I hate I hate D&D 5th at high level. But then I always have, like, even older editions. First edition is sweetest between about 9th and 12th. Earlier than that, the wizard is not powerful enough, ironically. And then after that, the wizard owns everything. Because first edition, classic D&D was never balanced, and it wasn't about balance. 5th edition, because the nature of the way RPGs have changed, it's a much more balanced game. But yeah, just beyond, at least the classes are balanced, but yeah, beyond 12th, the gameplay mechanics just become too cumbersome. So Fuke says, oh yes, they're practicing atting at each other.
Our winner is you.
Well done, Fuke.
What do I win? If you choose Compass 2, you might get this.
You might do, or indeed any of the massive pile of stuff we've got just down here off camera.
All of this.
It's a huge pile. You can see it by watching last week's show, and that's not everything we're giving away.
Fame, not fortune. That's a bit harsh. Says, sorry if too off topic. What is the meaning behind Pair of Geeks?
Well, we started off with our own channels back in the day. This channel used to be Dungeon Girl, which was my own channel, and I used to do miniature videos with my dungeons, of which I have many.
And I used to be the Rogue DM. That feels weird saying. I haven't said that for a little while. But people, but people still know me as that. It's really weird. But yes, and then we decided to combine the channels.
Yeah, it was really when we first moved in together, and
We were still doing our own.
Yeah, we initially maintained our own channels, and I kind of struggled with it. My channel was really suffering at that point because we were making stuff for you.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting a look in.
So we said, why don't we just do this together as a channel? And
so I had the bigger channel at the time, so we decided to make this RPG, and you're doing your own thing now with your channel.
But in terms of the name,
we went through a few, because obviously we couldn't call it Dungeon Girl with Jason on the channel. That's a little bit harsh. So, what?
I'm just surprised you would even think of such a thing.
Well, no, of course not. It was never going to be a thing. So, we had to come up with something new, and we thought, well, look, if we're going to broaden it a bit in terms of the content we put on, which was something we discussed at the time, let's just call ourselves geeks. And there's two of us, so we're a pair of geeks. And then I thought, and then we're going to have two pairs as a logo, and that's a pair of geeks.
Didn't we get a bit of inspiration from the standard size pair or something?
Right, shut up and sit down, have a pair logo. Do you know, I didn't see that as inspiration for it, but maybe it put the
Subliminal.
thought of pair in the name somewhere.
Maybe.
But
because do you even like pears?
they're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer them to apples
Okay then.
and oranges,
Okay.
but they're not as good as bananas.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a play on words, pair of, because there's two of us, but also our logo is two pairs. So it's a pair of pairs.
Yes. Anyway.
So yeah, there you have it. So Fugue says, well, I guess that's true, isn't it? I have fame in this community, but no fortune.
No. But you can... Well, you do. You still
can win a
donate
fortune
to us, so you do have at least a little fortune, so thank you.
But no, you can win a fortune as part of this community. All you have to do is tune into Com Plus 2. You'll get a fortune in prizes. Because honestly, I say honestly, like I'm trying to convince people it's true. It actually is.
It is, yes.
As far as we know, it is the world's biggest RPG prize giveaway in history.
Yeah, it's just...
huge.
It's
hundreds of prizes.
Blown up so much over the past 2 years.
I mean,
I'm still astonished.
175 prizes away last year, and we've smashed it. So, still collating prizes.
Well, we haven't smashed the prizes. That would be a bit silly.
So Ronnie says it's... Oh, right, he's explaining our name. So,
It would have been a bit awkward if that wasn't the reason.
That'd be like, haha.
AJ says, you cannot heal my wounded mind, cleric.
Have I lost the reference to that?
Yes, I have too. I'm not sure what that is, I'm afraid. Oh dear.
Says, a lot of retired famous sports athletes lose all their money on spending sprees, poor investments, and family moochers. Could easily translate to famous related RPG
Yeah, you get quite a lot of these sort of rugged retired boxers and
it's one of the things. We had a donation for the charity that we're supporting, and the person doing the donation did not want to be named. And they were very specific about that, because what they didn't want was less altruistic charities, or people representing less altruistic charities, seeing that they've given a donation to us, then approaching them and saying, can you give stuff? And it's the thing, lottery winners report this, don't they? That people come out the woodwork looking to take and stuff. And getting endless mail of sob stories because everyone knows they've come into money or whatever.
There is also the retired character trope where it's like, yes, I'm retired, I don't do this anymore, and then something causes them to come back in one last time, and maybe they die or something dramatically.
Oh yeah, well it depends if it's a handing over the reins story or not.
Yeah, well, Mask of Zorro comes to mind, for example.
I haven't seen that since for ages. I barely remember it from all the others.
That girl Anthony Hopkins. You beat me to it. Yes.
Okay, so Says is talking to AJ. Just want to personally thank you for introducing me to 2.5D Terrain and Heroic Maps. Heroic Maps are a sponsor, by the way.
They are one of our longest running sponsors.
Yeah.
We don't know what they're giving away yet, because their turnaround of designs is huge. So they always say, we'll come to you with something relevant at the time.
Yeah.
Which is like, wow.
So says he went from theatre of the mind to theatre of the tabletop. You definitely levelled up our game. It's nice that a completely different YouTuber is getting love in our chat during our live show. But no, I mean, and you know, obviously we all love AJ's work, but yeah, no, the 2.5 terrain was quite interesting. Like if I hadn't already so committed to 3D terrain, I think I might have done that because I thought it was quite a good approach, and of course so compact for storage as well. And if you have you seen it at all? It's basically so you get
No.
you get the dungeon tile printout type things,
Mm-hmm.
but you stick them onto cardboard, but you can layer up the cardboard. So at its most basic level, you'd have a layer of cardboard with the dungeon tile stuck on it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd put some more cardboard down for the walls and stick the wall bits on. That's it at its most basic level. And then, of course, you can go up from there. So it's a much sort of flatter terrain that sort of gives the impression of height. But, of course, having the detail of all the, printed out scenery type thing. Hopefully I got that right, because it's been a while since I looked at 2.5D.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I do recall I did first see that on DM Scott's
Wait, babe.
Well, we haven't put the chat on screen, and that is completely my fault.
It is your fault. Because I was even about to say, oh, babe, don't forget to do the thing. And you're like, just before we do. Anyway, now you guys can see the chat. Why is it not clearing the next one? Com +2 will indeed be superb, Ronald.
Shall I go and hide off screen for a couple of minutes and refill our water glasses?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm getting a bit thirsty.
Okay. Because I'm hanging my head in shame, having left the chat. Sorry, do a what?
No, I thought you weren't going to pick it up.
No, I'm getting you water too.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, more chat to go through. Scott is hoping to get in a game this year. What kind of game are you hoping to run? If you've said it before, I don't remember, so remind me. AJ says, I'll be reporting live from PAX Australia during the con, sort of. Oh, intriguing. I didn't realise that PAX was at the same time. But, I mean, you've done epic things before, so yeah, you can do 2 cons at once. Yeah, easy for you. Piss easy. Oh, Geese is pronounced Gesh. Well, I didn't know anything about Geshes, so, but I'll let her know when she gets back. Philanthropy. Yes, well, what is going on? Oh, more gushing for AJ. AJ has a great channel, and Fuke needs to get off their ass and make some videos for their own channel. Depression kills a lot of motivation to make and then edit them. I wholeheartedly agree. When we first started Pair of Geeks, I had burnt out, and yeah, depression and dysphoria made it really hard to make anything, any sort of video, and now things have obviously happened, and it just so happens I am 1 year on my hormone replacement therapy today, but suddenly things are so much better, so I completely feel for you. I know where you're coming from. It's okay if you can't make a video. I don't know, I tried various different things, maybe sort of do simple or short videos to start with, and then do editing on a different day maybe, depending on how you feel, but never feel pressured to put out, try and put out a video a week and a week and a week. Because if you don't, of course you're going to beat yourself up over it. So yeah, just do what you can, and that's enough. That is okay. It's perfectly okay. But thank you for saying that Pair of Geeks is awesome too. Yes, we are. Says, for a while in grade school, they wore a hat that said, local celebrity, across the top. Their mum hated it, and it got lost in the wash. Oh dear. Well, I mean, could you, like, I don't know, make another one? Or, I don't know, what, did anything happen with that? Did she retrieve it again or something? Who knows? Well, that's a bit of a sad story. Hello,
what sad
babe.
story do we have here?
Oh, we have various things that's going on. Apparently, geese is pronounced gesh.
In what accent?
Well, New Zealandy.
Yeah, but like New Zealand is basically the Australian accent, but you swap the E and the I around.
I said that to a New Zealander, and they got really annoyed with me.
I know.
I did the whole fish and chips, and they're like, "Fuck you." Hey, kitty, you're gonna be on camera because you're not on camera at the minute.
Kitty, come on.
Come and get some.
Come be the third
subscribers.
presenter. Come on. Oh. Right, let's see if we can attract Kitty on camera. Come on, Kitty.
Hey, wanna come? Are we gonna
We
come
got him
behind?
out. There we
Here
go.
she is.
Where are you, Kitty? There we go. Come on.
Hey.
Come on. That's it. Come on. We've all stopped for the camera.
She has a charisma of 20. What can I say?
Yeah. So, have we dealt with this one on screen?
Oh.
So,
That's what I was saying about the sad story.
let me catch up. For a while in Greece, I wore a hat that said "local celebrity" across the top. My mum hated it, and it got lost in the wash. Oh.
I know. Commiserations.
I now have to wear a hat.
Yes.
It's become
So,
a rule.
if
It's
it-
apparently a thing.
Oh. If it gets lost in the wash, then our channel is screwed.
No, well, it depends. I know that Tesco have some very similar hats at the
Well, I was
moment.
going to say, unless you get another more epic hat than that.
Can only buy hats like this in the summer, though, so maybe I should buy a spare.
Or a few.
James Reedon says, Paladin, a holy warrior that is kind and understanding to all life, will lay down their life to defend all without exception. Or the holy warrior that kills if you don't stand up to their ideas. Thank you. Well, mostly the reason I was struggling to speak is because I got cat hair
Oh, I
in my
thought
mouth.
it was your throat.
No, that usually goes in another 45 minutes or so.
But yes, paladins can definitely be like that. But here's another little twist with fame and fortune. What if you have somebody who claims to be famous and claims they've done all this stuff, and that kind of starts maybe carrying a little bit, maybe it's just the adventure party, or maybe it's further afield, but actually no, it's a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I don't know, there's a doppelganger.
Or, no, I mean, I like that because I think there is a certain kind of person who would do that. Usually that sort of I personality type, the kind of people who would have YouTube channels.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, says, I miss when you would say Becky Rose Dungeon Girl in your Game Master voice. My partner and I would imitate in the good way. You are our kind of cool. That's awesome. What was my Dungeon Master voice though? Did I have a Game Master voice?
I wouldn't call it a game master voice. I don't know.
I'm curious. I might have to watch some old videos and see if I said it
All I can think of is, "Hi, I'm Becky Rose Dungeon Girl." But
Hi, I'm Becky Rose Dungeon Girl, and this is for you, says.
that's all I can think of. I wouldn't say it was a DM voice. I would just say it's a performing voice.
Well, I suppose it's very British.
Well, you are very British.
Much to my recent shame. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to watch some old. I know in my old videos I was much more shy and stuff, so I probably did speak in a much more English way. Because I used to get compared a lot to Lindy Beige.
That was what I
hasn't-
said. Yeah.
You weren't the only one.
Okay.
And that used to happen a lot, but it hasn't happened in a very long time.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think. Oh, yeah, that's like female Lindy Beige.
Well, it's because I talked about reenactment, and I had the minis,
You
which
did,
back then
but-
Lindy Beige used to do some stuff with minis.
More so back then, maybe because I don't know, you were kind of over-compromising a bit, but you definitely had a bit of an eccentric British accent thing going on.
Okay, well, I think I'm entitled to be eccentric.
Absolutely.
Because...
But that was in terms of me just sort of meeting you for the first time, it's like, yeah. those are things I picked up with you.
Yes, yes, I'm definitely allowed to have an eccentric accent on account of how eccentric I am.
Whereas I look extremely normal tonight.
For an American with that
what?
tank top.
I'm not American.
Tank tops went out of fashion in Britain in the 40s, and they should be made
No,
of wool.
no, they
I
didn't.
watched the latest Lindy Beige video. I know this.
Yes, but there's loads of guys who wear these
Right.
in the UK.
Oh, Fugue wants to play in a game with Says. Hit it up, guys. Feel free to arrange it. We'll just
Do it as part of Complus 2.
AJ is questioning that banana's better than oranges. Doesn't AJ live on an orange plantation or something?
I thought it was avocados or
Is it
something.
I don't know.
Or
I
something
may
green.
have personally insulted one of our sponsors. You are now listed as a sponsor on the Complus website, by the way, AJ. So thank you. We need to talk to confirm exactly what it is you're
Converse.
gonna, do. So,
Even I'm sending prizes out for it.
and they're not oranges.
Hopefully they're not like those little mechanical things.
No.
that will
He's
fight
doing
you.
the army painter paints, and we did speak about.
No. But he said I will fight you, so I wasn't sure if he was going to smuggle
Oh,
loads
is this
of
the
like.
this the follow up for that statement? Like he's going to do a prize fight with me.
Oh yeah, that's a point. That too.
Well, we have a particularly interesting way of doing prize fighting for Complus 2. Yes, Fuchs with me on this one. Banana is the best fruit. Absolutely.
Is a banana even a fruit?
Yeah, it's got seeds.
No, it doesn't. What does it?
Oh. And now you're making me question my own sanity.
I'm sure it's a fruit, but it's also something else.
I know about role-playing games.
And it says it's a fine fruit, no doubt, but clearly inferior to the orange. However, what about pears? Since we are pears.
If I'm going to have an orange, I would rather have a tangerine, because they're easier to peel.
Yeah, or a satsuma.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I quite like oranges too, but they're just such a palaver.
Yeah.
Certainly over here, the oranges that we get over here is just...
And once you get to 40 and you've got a little bit of tooth decay, that acid is just...
And your fingernails get all the orange stuff all over it. It's like, no.
Yes, Russell, so I think this is in response to the whole people claiming to be famous when they aren't, a bit like a small-time YouTuber like us.
What people say and what they do are not always congruent, indeed.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like, this comes up for me when people make claims about what they do in a certain situation. And you're like, but you never really know until you're in that situation.
No.
And, then you're tested. And... yeah, it's like I remember when I discovered a burglar in my house, and it was the most surreal experience, because even if I had sort of pondered beforehand what I would do, the reality is I was not prepared for the fact that I was barely awake, and I remember, I'll tell the story. So, I hear a sound downstairs, and this is many years ago, back when I lived with my parents, and I was probably in my teens, late teens, I think, and I put on a dressing gown, and I start to go downstairs, and whilst I get midway down the stairs, I see this person in a hallway next to the front door roll like a black roll-up thing of tools, full of tools, and they were doing something with the lock as I came downstairs. Now, I later learned they were reassembling it to make it look like they'd never been there. What they'd done is turns out this person was a professional locksmith, dismantled the lock, got in, would take cash from downstairs. This was actually the 4th time he'd burgled the house, and he was taking my brother's rent money. So my brother would pay rent to my parents, and he'd come in and take the cash. And I do remember the arguments between my brother and my mum, with my brother saying he'd paid rent and then my mum insisting he hadn't.
That's awkward.
So, yeah. So anyway, I'm on the stairs. This guy sees me, and I now realise what it was he was doing. He was distracting me whilst he gathered up his tools and legged it out the door. What he said was, "Why are you wearing a dress?" And I looked down at my dressing gown. And I'm like, "It's not a dress." And it was... That's what I did. You know, it's not like I was there going, "Hey, you, get out of my house," or being heroic. No, I went, "It's not a dress." So, says we play in person at a university in California. DM me if you are ever in the state.
Ooh.
Fuke. So Fuke talking to AJ. Pay for a
flight.
A flight. Wondered he was talking about AJ's fight there for a minute. Flight to New Zealand, and I will fight you because banana is best. Damn right.
Oh wow, this is going to become a betting thing, isn't it? Choose your champions. South or North California, okay, things are going down. Russell says I could always see the chat.
Yeah, the chat would have been in the YouTube thing, but not on screen.
Yeah, as in this thing.
Yeah, above our heads right now.
Yes. Says the 2.5D terrain doesn't solve storage issues because all my storage is full of 2.5D terrain. Nature loves a vacuum. If you put a shed in their backyard, they guarantee it would be full by the end of the summer.
For years and years and years, I could move house in 2 or 3 car trips, including white goods. Right? You know, I lived light and stuff, but then when I bought a house, I decided, and I saw a Dwarven Forge dungeon, and I thought, oh, this looks cool. I could get that. I'll buy a number of sets. I'll paint it up, and we'll have a dungeon set. And because I've got some old minis that are painted, not very well, but you know, I've got some old minis, and we could do a game with minis. That'd be cool. Haven't done that in decades. So I bought 8 sets of Dwarven Forge, and I painted them up in one weekend.
Wow,
and
that's hardcore.
And I thought, oh, this needs some decor. So I went and bought some decor. Painted that up, and then I'm like, well, now I've only got decor for one theme. What if I want to do something other than barrels and crates and treasure chests?
And then with me, I also, you know, travelled light, as it were, because I moved around quite a lot since I'm not originally from this country and things like that. And then I moved in with you, and you're like, by the way, all these minis. And I'm like, okay, so I'll just put all my stuff around them. And then you're like, by the way, I backed this Kickstarter and I'm getting this ginormous thing about a foot high, and also this is coming and that is coming.
That was the Bones 3 Kickstarter that arrived, yeah. I
So,
let you know about it well beforehand.
Oh, you did, but it wouldn't change the fact of we didn't know where to put it.
Well, I bought more shelves.
Yes, we bought more
There's
shelves.
still a shelving
Fine,
shortage.
it was fine,
I'm not allowed to buy more at the minute.
No, we need to paint them up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got plenty on the queue to paint, but
Me too.
the thing is, you know, Bones Kickstarters come around, and that not everything ever appears on the Bones store afterwards.
No, I know that's the kind of the point of a Kickstarter, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know, I'm at the point now where I've got so many, I don't back the whole of the Bones Kickstarter. I just pick the ones I really want.
Yeah, you tend to go for the big obscure ones now, don't you?
I'm basically completing my monster manual in a way. I like to get things I don't have.
Like the awesome killer turtle.
Yeah. Do I have that one?
Yes.
Awesome.
Massive turtle that looks terrifying.
Yeah, well, I haven't painted it yet. I know that.
AJ's challenging Fuke to a video fight.
I tell you what.
This is... wow.
Come to Complus 2 and you can actually fight on screen.
We can't make you bananas and oranges, unfortunately.
But, yes, we can. Change your avatars to bananas and oranges
Well, I suppose,
for the Complus 2 telethon, and I guarantee you, we will, on air, have you duke it out.
I thought we were
It
just
will
having
happen.
like usernames, not actual
Yeah,
avatars.
avatars.
Okay.
Yeah. Avatar,
Okay.
That's already in. It works. It's cool.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Is that gonna
for anyone
be?
who now wondering what the hell's going on? Look,
Is that going to be the
trust
new
me,
bonfire joke?
Maybe no. I think the bonfire joker's got years left to run.
But
So,
still, we're going to remember
come along
this
to
one.
Com+2, and I guarantee you we'll be able to determine once and for all whether oranges are better than bananas or not, and of course they're not.
Says
they're
is talking
they're
about
the
South
game,
California, but don't want to mention any further. That's absolutely fair enough.
I think, can you direct message? You used to be able to direct message on YouTube, but I don't know if that's still a thing.
Don't believe so. And then they start talking about California.
What you can do, if you want to exchange contacts, feel free to email us. Go to complus.live and email the convention, and we can exchange your 2 emails for you if you don't want to post them now in the chat. Yeah?
Well, my first thought is, do they want us to know where they live?
No, they just need to give us the email addresses so we can connect them
Right, I see, okay.
in a private way. So feel free to do that.
Babe, Gesh is Welsh.
Gesh. What Gesh?
Yes, as in, you were saying geese.
Sure.
But apparently it's Gesh because it's Welsh and
Well,
you're
if I knew it
part
was
Welsh.
if I knew it was a Welsh word, then that does utterly change the pronunciation. However, it is considered very rude in this country to speak Welsh, because of course, whenever you speak Welsh, you have to spit on people.
Yes,
That's
but-
part of the language.
Yes, but babe,
So-
I'm Celtic.
Yes, but I'm not going to talk to you in Welsh because that would be spitting on you.
Well, can you speak in Welsh?
Hang on.
Don't just say the longest place name.
I would never do that. I can't remember it all. No, hang on. Is it Sharad?
I mean, sometimes I say to you, tread a little. What?
I think Sharad Simrech. I know a little bit of token Welsh.
As in, you speak Welsh. Sharon
speak Welsh. Yeah, I couldn't work out the rest of the grammar because my Welsh is. I only know a few words.
I know Rydw i hoffi coffee. Thanks to Gavin and Stacey, because one of the families in it is Welsh. But that's it.
Right, moving on.
Moving on, we've gone off tangent. Scott says, good words, man, happy for you too.
I have no idea of the context on that.
Might be something I was talking about earlier. If so, thank you. Asia says, all hail Kitty, queen of the internet. Yeah, but she hardly ever comes on camera, so...
Yeah,
If she is the queen, she rules over us all and tells us when to stream and
must
things
be
like
miles behind the chat though, because she'd left ages ago. I
Yes,
just
we
realised I still
are.
have the pillow on my lap.
Yeah,
And it's made me
we
really
are
hot.
we are miles behind. Southwest, yes, is very well populated. Southeast, not really in terms of California.
Right.
Yuki's asking Ronnie, why is a Scottish brogue or an Irish brogue called a brogue, not an accent? Why a new word for the same thing?
Well, the Scots have lots of new words for the same thing.
Yes. I don't...
Probably, I would imagine, it's because brogue is probably an old Celtic word.
Yes, it is. It
Yeah.
is. Brogue is Celtic word. I don't know the exact etymology.
Well, I'm guessing it's the word
but
for accent.
But I don't want to put words into a Scot's mouth because you never want to piss off a Scot.
So AJ says the Australian dialect is called strine. The New Zealand dialect is called zild or zild. Hang on, zeld.
Zeld.
It's New Zealand because it sounds like an E.
Oh my god. No. Felix says, what's the Canadian one, the Quebec
Oh
one,
my
the
God, all this talk about
Newfoundland one
accents.
called?
Is
The
this all
dialect.
because I can't say Patreon?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. No idea.
Right.
No idea.
Ronnie, brogue supposedly is
A reference.
is yes
Shall I
reference
read
to
this?
brogues, which was a kind. I can read. I'm close enough to the screen.
Okay.
Which
yeah,
was
but you
a
are
kind
leaning
of
forward, like
a kind of shoe worn by Irish and Scots
Mm-hmm.
at the time the word came into use, referring to accent of someone who wore brogues.
Mm-hmm. It's not really something used in Manx terminology, so I don't know if they had brogues or if they called them something else.
Massively off topic.
We are, but who
We'll
cares?
carry on. So, AJ says a complete set of Army Painter paints as well as a pair of paint racks to hold them.
Is
okay,
what
cool.
AJ is giving away.
So that's
Thank
the
you
Complas
so
2
much.
prize from the Mighty Glue Stick. So,
You mean the mighty glue stick?
would it be the Mighty Glue Stick?
I tried to do a stick, but it didn't quite work. But yes, a glue stick apparently.
False
Is a
asking.
banana a pod? Yes, I believe it is.
Ah,
Yes.
okay.
Rather than ice cream is the best fruit, says Russell. I win. Debate ends.
But what flavour?
Yes.
I know the best flavour of ice cream.
What, like butterscotch or something?
No, that's the best flavour of Angel Delight. That's a different
No,
question.
strawberry. Strawberry's the best.
What?
Strawberry. I
Well,
love
we're
strawberry.
talking about Angel Delight
Yes,
here.
Angel
Right.
Delight. I used
I'm
to
not
eat
sure
that all
does-
the time.
Does Angel Delight, is that a thing you can get in other countries? I'm not sure.
I don't
how well
know.
it's travelled.
It's very English. How would you even describe it?
Mousse, I guess. Sort
it's
of like
like
a solid yogurt.
It's like a powder that you mix with milk and it kind of becomes an extremely sugary, moussey pudding thing.
Yes. And butterscotch is the correct flavour for that. But
Strawberry.
for ice cream, no, ice cream is vanilla with a sprinkle of chocolate on top, or
Vanilla.
chocolate truffles.
No.
It's the only time I really like chocolate.
AJ says pears are good in season.
Yes, and he spelt pears correctly because we have totally claimed the EA spelling.
Yes. AJ loves all fruit. We love you too. Says I am a fruit.
Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, said Mike Tyson.
We are very behind.
We are massively behind. But yes, well, yes, the ear muncher.
What?
There's Mike Tyson. He famously
Oh.
bit that guy's ear, didn't he?
Yes, he did, yeah.
Ed-
I thought you meant
I'm
you
trying
were
to
an
remember the
ear
guy's
muncher.
name. I'm trying to remember the guy's name that he did it to. I'm sure it began with E, but I can't remember now.
Fuke is indeed in the
Yes.
Pair of Geeks fruit bowl, therefore
Yes.
they are a fruit.
AJ used to be, but he's a traitor.
He's a pod.
It's because he likes oranges.
Yes.
Phil says,
Oh,
"It is
yes, it's a
fruit, but
berry,
technically
that's
it's a berry."
right. I remember now, yes, it is a berry.
But it hasn't got a pip in the middle,
You don't have to have a pip in the middle for it to be a berry.
do you not?
No. There you
Okay.
go. New thing learnt today. It is indeed a berry.
Ronnie says, just wanted to say thank you, Jason, for your comments earlier regarding depression and videos and stuff. Well,
Yes,
go
I
you.
did do a bit on depression because somebody else was mentioning about how difficult it is to make videos when you're suffering from depression.
It's
true.
hard, motivation just goes out the window on depression.
It's not even it goes out of the window; it becomes just something
Difficult to
completely
do.
different. Yeah. Anyway, says sorry I have to go early again. Oh no! I am participating in a town hall panel. Is it a decoupage?
It might be because he lives somewhere that still has democracy. A reference to our local authoritarian regime.
Or she, by the way, or they.
Indeed, my apologies.
And have to convince the authorities that not all food trucks have to have a fruit/vegetable wash station. Some don't serve them.
Ah,
Oh, right.
You go tell 'em, says.
Yes, you'll do.
Fuke says, by the time you read
An
this,
hour
an hour
later.
later than usual, I'm heading to work. It was great to actually hang out with the chat and the pair of geeks. How have you given out fame
in
unique ways?
I'm assuming they mean in terms of like to characters.
Yeah,
Do
because
they?
I mean, you don't really give fame. Fame is
No, fame is some. Yeah, it's earned or it grows.
I mean, there's a couple of systems that have like character creation options where they can be famous. And to be honest, whenever I've seen somebody take that, it almost always gets forgotten about, which is kind of a shame, really. Because yeah, I mean, a corporation has it. I'm sure it's in Fate as an option.
What?
Some form of celebrity. One of the, or maybe you can just do it as an aspect. I'm not sure. But
If you're a celebrity or something, you can put that as your high aspect.
I've seen it mostly in cyberpunk type games. You know that would
You had a hair in your mouth.
okay. You know it's hot in here, isn't it?
Sorry, my
Try
eyes a bit
doing it
itchy.
in a hat.
Well, yeah.
It's damn hat. I used to like it when it wasn't obligatory.
Aww.
So yeah, I don't think you give fame. I think players earn it by their actions, and you know, if you look at our corporation game, you know, your players definitely ended that as some of the world's most famous people. I mean, even Adolf Hitler turned up to your trial.
Yes. Except it wasn't Adolf Hitler, was it?
You know, it was Adolf Hitler. It just turned out in this game world his real name was Jason and he was quite a nice guy. So it was so over the top.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the Holocaust, that was just marketing. It was, very, very difficult. I mean, he did do all those things. It's just he did it for marketing.
Yeah.
It was very
Very, very on the nose.
Yes. Moving on. AJ Pickett calling vanilla ice.
You alright?
Right, no, I was reading the rest of it first to make sure I would say it, because if he disagreed that vanilla ice cream was the best ice cream, I was gonna skip past it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he happens to consider vanilla his favourite flavour. That's absolutely right.
And
Vanilla-
apparently calling vanilla ice cream plain is insulting to vanilla.
Who said it was plain? Did I? I don't think I did.
Maybe it was me because I think of it as plain. Ah, thank you, kitty.
Thank you for bringing the toy mousey in and making lots of meows off camera. Ronnie says, in True 20, you have reputation, which is a measure of fame, either positive or negative.
Reputation.
Okay, Nishka. I think it's also in what's that city rogue type game where you play
Blades in the Dark.
Blades in the Dark.
Yeah, I think there is.
it's a metric in that.
It's not. I don't think it's
You've
called
got
reputation. Oh, maybe it is.
Yeah, you got reputations with various different.
Yeah, with different
factions.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a bit.
It's a bit like playing an early MMO.
I'm sure they took that from Thief, where in the third game you've got these two factions at war. So you've got the pagans who are very sort of nature, and you've got the Hammerites.
It reminded me of EverQuest.
Yeah.
Because every time you killed a monster in EverQuest, you'd gain or lose faction with different NPC factions.
The Hammerites were basically Christian, but they worshipped the Builder. But if you did enough stuff for each of them, they would become sort of neutral and then allies to you, even though they were at war with each other. So I honestly think they got it from that, frankly.
Scott Poe's come up with a really excellent point, which is actually on the topic of the day.
Yes.
Which is, PCs love monuments built in their honour. Make a party into a totem for saving the local bullywag stockade, and they will light up. Yeah.
Fair point.
Statues and honouring. Do you remember when you did it for Christoph?
I did, yes.
With the orcs, because I gave them a good harvest by doing that like hour-long casting druid spell
Yeah,
thing.
that. I mean, they were in such a state, so you did wonders for that community.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course you get a statue.
And they gave, well, they didn't give me a statue. They gave me the necklace of orc.
Oh,
shields
yes, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
But
remember.
yeah, a statue would have been cool. I love that. That definitely appeals to my.
Did I not do a statue for Iskander?
You did.
Because I was thinking, I'm sure I did put a statue in somewhere.
Yes, not for me. I remember.
Yeah, but Angus Cruciator just kind of wanted to go off and
She still did amazing deeds.
Yeah,
just
but
didn't
she
wanna live
became
in
more.
the fame.
Yeah, she became more modest and exactly didn't want to live in the fame. She disappeared.
Ronnie says, yes, that corporation game was definitely out there and loads of fun. We must be catching up in the chat
I
room,
think
so
yeah. We are a little bit
Okay, there is also Glory in Pendragon as well, which doubles as both XP and fame.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it is a thing. Like as you adventure more, I do think your players definitely.
There is something indirect in Cthulhu as well, where you've got your credit rating, which is basically your finances, but it can also affect your fame. So you're far more likely to be more famous if your credit rating is higher or have more contacts and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, like the reason I wanted to raise this topic is because fame is something that will happen over the course of a campaign, or could happen if you introduce it as the GM. And if you do that, and players start getting known for their actions and then that's going to shape the way NPCs treat them. So, and that's really the main point I wanted to come down to today, in that the player's own actions will ultimately determine preconceived notions that NPCs have about them. And that is a really powerful tool as a GM, because if once you've done that once to your players, then they're going to change the way, or potentially could change the way they approach the game, and in terms of being on topic and following the story and being the hero. So AJ says, Corporation is the only game where my character has ever drunk a cup of tea while hanging from a helicopter. That is the hallmark of a great game, if you ask me. I love Corporation. The one thing about Corporation, I mean, it is over the top and ridiculous and beyond ridiculous. It's fantastic in so many ways. It's become my favourite sort of sci-fi, cyberpunkish type game. The one complaint I have is that the plot of it is about when corporations own the Earth, and it's set in 2500, and that's kind of... It's already happened.
Yeah. But AJ made a fantastic character.
It's like, I don't believe I played that game in that one. I don't recall ever playing with AJ.
No, I ran the game. It was for Con Plus One. And not Con Plus One. Brigade Con. It was Brigade Con. And his character was what the hell are they called? The Mind Unbound people.
The Comoros.
Yes, the Comoros. He was a Comoros player. Very sort of into his tea and things like that. And yes, he drank a cup of tea whilst hanging from this helicopter.
He used a helicopter in a Corporation game I was in, where I was hanging off one of the skids one-handed, clutching my prized suitcase. No, I'd left the suitcase behind, hadn't I? Yeah, that was the whole thing. My character was mad about her suitcase that she didn't open until the final scene of the story, which was kind of awesome. It was this kind of...
Well, it's Corporation. You're going to hang from a helicopter at some point, or else you're doing it wrong. It might have been the same scenario, to be fair, but I don't think it was.
There was races on Venus or something, on Mars.
Oh, right, yeah, Vastag.
Oh, no, hang on. That was a different one. No, this was the one with biomes. There was some kind of giant bio whale thing under the ocean of
Yeah, Vastag. Yeah, that was a different scenario then.
Okay, we've lost our chat, which means it's
Bear
time for
with us.
another graphic. This time, let's see if we can find a pair of geeks one.
Blooper alert. Let's see if I can read the chat from here. Yes, we are getting close to the end of the chat. Ronnie says, my players are definitely... I can't read. Learning that the actions... Okay.
I guessed it. I finally guessed it. Took a few attempts. Right, let's get it back on screen.
Okay.
There we go.
Alright, so we've done this one from AJ. Yeah, Ronnie was saying, my players definitely learning that their actions have consequences, both positive and negative. And if they're super heroic, they can both earn love from some and hatred from others. Well, of course they can. And it's completely subjective as well, so, you know, that you might do something really good, but there'll be certain people who still hate you, because that's what happens.
I mean, it goes back to what I just mentioned with EverQuest and the factions. For those of you who remember that MMO, like you'd kill a monster, that might improve your faction and standing with one group, but decrease it with another.
Yeah.
So that can absolutely apply with fame as well. And don't forget, if somebody's famous for something positive, you will always get somebody who's jealous of that. It's like, you know, it's now impossible, for example, to have a Star Wars film without everyone saying it's crap. Because it's not their Star Wars. But we all still go and watch it because secretly we all actually love it, even though it's always been a bit shit.
Yes. Didn't do anything.
There we go. Cyberpunk is very topical at the
Yes,
moment.
it
Yes, with the
is.
release of Cyberpunk 2077.
Starring
later this year.
Keanu Reeves.
Apparently so. Good news, Artel Zorian are sponsoring us. We should be giving away a copy of Cyberpunk 2077. We haven't absolutely confirmed it, have we? Did we?
No,
I
we
can't
haven't.
remember. Right.
But they were
Okay.
interested in doing that.
Yes. They were a huge sponsor for us last year, gave us a massive donation for Child's Play. And they backed our t-shirts too. Yes. Now, there was the whole thing, though, where they've come into flack a number of times, not Artel Zorian, but the people behind the computer game, CD Projekt Red, have come in under fire a number of times for transphobia.
Yes.
Because they definitely did have a social media person who was definitely transphobic. Like, if you look at their sort of, the
I don't know the
behaviour.
full story.
The latest thing is there is a poster in the game that features a trans person with the caption "Mix it up," which is. This is why you need representation at game studios. It's like the racist hand dryer story. You know, these things don't happen if you hire more diverse workforces. You won't make those mistakes. Because I think that was, I mean, it's not severe breach, but it's out of complete ignorance. See, what they thought is that they've done this poster that's inclusive. It's showing that this is now a segment of the population that can be marketed to. That's what they thought they were doing, but what they really did was they put their foot so far down the mouth they swallowed the slipper. So
yeah, they failed miserably with that.
yeah, and my answer to that is be more diverse in your hiring, and you won't make those kind of mistakes.
Mix it up.
But that was on the computer game side, not on the RPG side.
Yeah.
So. Ronnie says, I would love to see Artel Zorian not only give Complas 2 Cyberpunk, but also their seminal steampunk game.
I've not
didn't.
played it. But yes, they do have a steampunk.
I think he's implying that there's... Oh, steampunk! Yeah, right. Oh, God, I didn't actually sink in. What game was that? I haven't played it. At least I don't think I have.
I can't remember the name.
Oh, God, you know what it is?
What?
It's Castle Falkenstein, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Of course! How did we forget Ronnie? The super fan of Castle Falkenstein. Or should I say, Falkenstein?
AJ is like, unless they are manufacturing outrage as a marketing tool to spread awareness of the game, you know,
Maybe.
wouldn't put it past them. There are so many companies now that are kind of choosing a side on social issues in order to raise awareness, and they're courting outrage because outrage earns you a fortune. You know, Nike made $3.6 billion out of the outrage over the copper.
I bet Gillette made a lot as well.
Yeah, because there's no marketing like it at the moment. There are companies that are genuinely aiming to cause outrage in their marketing. I don't necessarily know if this was because they didn't promote it. This was actually quite small in the background of the gameplay. Gameplay footage that was filmed at E3. It was just an advert in the background. It wasn't prominent at all. Somebody then enlarged that, skewed it to see, correct the perspective, and then that's what got posted to Twitter. So I don't think they courted it on this occasion. And I know their original social media person. That was right. I know their original social media person was fired. So, so AJ says, which is even more reprehensible. Cough, cough. Vampire the Masquerade. Cough, cough. Yeah, they had the whole thing with 1488, didn't they? Which did they? Is that what it's transpired? Did that turn out to be a deliberate thing to court controversy? Because when I first saw the initial response from them, I thought they were being dismissive of it because they didn't take it seriously when the numbers were first pointed out, and they just thought, "Oh, don't be ridiculous." That was what I thought.
I don't really know much about it. I remember seeing the tail end of it.
In the Vampire the Masquerade, I forget which one now, but the
V5?
latest V5.
Yeah, White Wolf.
There was an example in one of the examples given where the person is described as rolling 1, 4, 8, and 8.
1, 4, 8, and 8.
Which is 1488. So you got the 14 golden words, which is Hitler thing, and then 88, of course, Heil Hitler type thing. So, Fuchs says, at work punching in with people thinking I sound Australian. I can see people having false fame from the general public.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I mean, because you sound Australian, you're now the centre of attention, and that is its own little form of mini celebrity.
Indeed.
So Scott Poe says the US was swallowed by advertisers decades ago. Social topics raised in awareness and simultaneously for their own gain is absolutely nothing new. Yeah. It's sad because it's kind of divisive.
Reminds me of a pretty cool story, a dystopian story where there was this drug created to basically blot out any kind of adverts. So your brain would do stuff and it would just go away. And eventually it got to a point where this character had either overdosed or taken so much of it that they couldn't come back.
Okay.
And that involved also being completely alone in the world.
Oh, that's kind of harsh.
It was really depressing.
That kind of reminded me of Syndicate, which was an old computer game originally on the Amiga, came out later on PC, where people had chips in them where they could create their own reality. So the chips not only were their ident, but allowed them to just change, like put a skin over what was in front of them. So if they saw a homeless person sat on the floor, what they might actually see is, I don't know, a happy child playing with a teddy bear or something.
That's like friggin' in Black Mirror.
Yes, I think Black Mirror.
Do you remember the kid had the thing in her, so the horrible dog would actually be blotted out.
Archangel. That episode.
But
the thing about Syndicate is, of course, the corporations could access the chip and could take control of you with this weapon called a Persuadatron, and you, of course, were playing an agent and corporation. It's one of the listed inspirations for this particular RPG we were talking about earlier. Right, AJ Pickett says, which dovetails nicely back into the improper use or generation of fame. Does it what we're just talking about? I'm so hot I can't concentrate.
The Australian sort of thing.
Yes, sorry, thank you. So improper use or generation of fame as a topic. I mean, we have kind of talked about it, but I think where fame is interesting to me is the effect on gameplay, which I did also I've covered a little bit on, because when your players first get fame as players, I noticed one of the groups I did this with tried to kind of weaponize their fame, to use it to their advantage. I think it's interesting how different groups react to having players that famous. But of course, one of the things that was always a part of old school gaming was, the original purpose of D&D as it was first created was to create backstories for a war game, like these heroes in a war game that all had castles. And one of the things you can do in old school gaming is buy castles. And this is where I want to bring the whole thing full circle and talk about world building again. Because there's one thing that my Silver Sisters have in the campaign I'm running that's very much inspired by that first edition thing of buying your fortress or and so on. And
this isn't a spoiler, is it?
Not really.
Okay.
I don't think so. In that the Silver Sisters have chapter houses all over the world.
Oh yes, that's right. You mentioned.
So those chapter houses are really they're safe houses and they're strongholds, and they're just the places they've either purchased or cleared out of monsters. And they now all belong to the Silver Sisters and are used for whatever purpose the Silver Sisters have for that particular place, which would be a spoiler if I said, so I won't. You'll find out all about that as we go through our campaign. So, and that's something I think which I think can influence world building, influence your map making. Where were the dungeons of old that have become strongholds for some previous adventurer? And sorry, you're.
Oh no! I was
James's
looking at the chat, but I didn't. I thought you'd finished. Sorry.
No, by all means, step in.
Well, no, I was just going to say that there's more praise for AJ.
Really?
Yes. Really.
James says, "Hey AJ, I didn't put the 2 and 2 together. I'm sub to your channel also. You have a great channel, my brother." Well, AJ used to be one of the most awesome people in the world, of course, but he left our
AJ has all the fame. Lasai.
Damn.
My name is nearly James. Does that count? Ryan says, "Wow, Syndicate, there's a classic."
Yeah, the last time
I feel young again.
I loved Syndicate so much. I have completed it a couple of times, but then I got Syndicate Wars, which was the PC one, and I completed that once as well. That last mission was hell.
Hell in a good way or hell in a bad way?
Really hard. Difficulty level through the roof. Yeah, really difficult. Did it eventually. But I seem to remember doing lots of playthroughs to attempting it many times before I could do it. The movie They Live is one of my faves, says AJ Pickett.
I have not seen this.
I do not know the reference for this.
We did see What Happened to Monday, though.
That was a really good sci-fi dystopian film.
I really liked it.
Very predictable, but I enjoyed it all the same.
Yeah. I was saying to you afterwards that I find cyberpunk and dystopian movies extremely predictable, but I don't care.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't like was they still delivered the beats as if they'd surprised us with their big twist.
Yeah, and it's like, no, because we already knew.
It's like, come on.
What
else was it going to be?
We know, yeah, but it's good. We recommend it. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
So
that was
give it a go. Extremely good acting.
Yes, it's one of my favourite actors, Noomi Rapace. In a role that's quite similar to Tatiana Maslaney's Orphan Black. I do think, on balance, Tatiana Maslany pulled off her role a bit better than Noomi did. But, as you quite rightly mentioned...
TV series.
Tatiana had an entire TV series to deliver that in.
Yeah, how many
film.
seasons was Orphan Black? It was like 6 or something.
6 or 7.
Yeah, so that's a lot. Compared to a 90-minute...
but I was only in like the 3rd or 4th episode when I thought, bloody hell, this actress is good.
Well, as you pointed out, it was a lot of... She was acting this part and then having to pretend to be something else.
So she's playing the part of 2 entirely different characters, same actress, that happen to look the same, and there is a moment where these two very different characters, one of them is pretending to be the other. And,
It's not a moment. It's quite a
well,
long
it's a scene.
term thing.
It's an act.
Yeah.
And you can tell that she's in a kind of middle ground. You can tell it's that character pretending to be that character.
Yes.
She does it so well. I have huge respect for Tatiana Maslany. No idea what else she's been in, but
Me neither.
in Orphan Black she was brilliant. Right, we're not talking about RPGs though.
No. We're talking about nerdy things.
Yes, it's a
Geeky
geek channel.
things,
We're
yes.
focused on RPGs, but we're allowed to geek off.
Yes. Phil B says, I had Syndicate, great game. I
was
still feel
awesome.
young, thank you so much, everybody.
They Live is so classic. Why are people talking about They
I've
Live?
never
I
heard
don't
of
know
They
this
Live.
film. This is one of the-
Phil says it's a good film as well, goddamn. Ryan says They Live is almost a great film. He personally finds that big fight in the middle between Roddy Piper and Keith David goes on far too long.
I don't know what film this is and why people are talking about it suddenly. I think we missed a chat message.
No, because They Live, I think, is a cyberpunk movie.
Yes, but why did people start talking about it?
Because AJ said, oh, there's They Live.
Oh, right.
You read it out.
Yes, but okay. Right, AJ says, well, he was a pro wrestler and it is too long. That is
The comedy aspect of it. Oh, right.
Okay, James Breeden said, I think your channel is super.
Super!
I'm here hanging out with you. I think he's actually talking to AJ, though. He's not saying our channel is super. It's like...
Well, I see. Yeah. Maybe it's because we're super duper.
Scott Poe, looks like you guys need to watch They Live.
Oh dear. It is a pros of the invasive advertising conversation. I thought I was the only person who used the word a pros. It's totes a pro. Have you never heard that before?
So millennial.
Very upper class millennial, definitely. Totes a pro. Your channel is super, guys.
Yeah, but we no longer know whose channel is being talked about. So
Well, hopefully Ronnie's still talking about us because
I think
we're
so,
plural.
He said guys rather than a singular. So yes.
And the chat has finished.
We've caught up on the chat, so it's time to start talking about other topics. Now we were talking about Syndicate, which is a computer game. There is a new Baldur's Gate has been announced for a while now.
Yes.
Baldur's Gate 3. Now I saw a little bit. I didn't have the opportunity, unfortunately, to listen to the interview, but there was an interview. I think it was with Mike Merles and one of the developers.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned in that interview that there is going to be a new edition of the Ranger class. So in one of the forthcoming D&D expansions, we're going to get a new Ranger.
Right.
Although I don't think they actually said much about it in terms of what's going to change. But I was thinking it might be a good idea to talk about what they need to get rid of or need to look at.
What, for Rangers?
For Rangers, because they did a thing in Unearthed Arcana a while back where they did this update to the Ranger class to try and fix some of the issues, and I didn't like that Ranger that they presented in Unearthed Arcana, and I'm hoping they don't go with that.
Okay.
So the problems with the Ranger is your special abilities. So your favoured
enemy
can be problematic because it's so not level appropriate. Like you might be level 1 or 2 and you might pick dragon.
I don't think you can anymore, but I'm sure you
can. And it's probably sensible to do so.
Yes.
Because here's the thing. You get your favoured enemies only a few different level breaks. Sooner or later, if you're going to be fighting dragons, you want to have made sure you've taken dragon at the start when you could. So, like, it's not level appropriate. But also, your favoured terrain.
Oh, yeah.
What's the point of it in 5th Ed?
That never actually comes up when I do a Ranger. It's like, okay, my favourite terrain is blah. Do we go there? No.
And even if you do, what's the challenge of the... Like, what is it we're meant to be doing in terrain that the ranger is then able to make easier for us. And it's one of those things, it's like giving a character the ride skill. If you're giving this ranger the favoured terrain skill, surely that means we can now fail in tundra or whatever. It's like, fail at what, I'm not sure, but...
Tracking, navigating...
so a lot of what they bring isn't very good, but of course the ranger is also known for two other things, and that is being good at the bow and being good at two-weapon fighting.
Yes.
And I've always loved the two-weapon fighting ranger, even though it's a stupid idea to fight with two weapons. I had a conversation with somebody online briefly earlier this week, where, because like when you look at historical, they were mentioning a historical two-weapon fighting, and they wanted to do something with that, and I said, but there isn't really much evidence of it. You know, there was the Florentine style.
That conversation.
Yeah, which is a dueling style. It's not some you might train with it, but you wouldn't actually fight Florentine in any circumstance where you're actually fighting. It's a training thing, because it's really ineffective. Now I'd done it back when I was a reenactor, and what it basically means is you fight with a sword and a short knife in your other hand. And what you essentially end up doing, whereas normally with what you would have is a sword and a shield, and your offhand would be your shield, and obviously you attack with your weapon, right? Makes sense. But when you go Florentine, you're now defending with your sword, and the sword now is just for defense. It's not as effective as a shield at defense. You might get an attack in, but to be honest, all your time is spent defending, which means your offhand is now your attacking hand. And that's what's different about it. It's essentially making you a left-hander, which is very effective in combat.
Absolutely.
But because your defense is now weaker and you're having to focus so much more on actively defending yourself, it is, on balance, not a very good mechanism for fighting. It's rubbish. But what that person then came back with is you've overlooked some Native American fighting style. I tried to research it. I couldn't find anything online. I'd never heard of it before. And some Asian styles. But as I understand it, and I may be wrong here because I'm no expert on this, but
the Native American wasn't to do with the tomahawk.
I honestly don't know.
I think so.
I couldn't find what was being referred to there, but the Asian styles, two-weapon fighting became popularized in the 20th century, and it isn't actually a historical thing per se. It was a phenomenon that sort of sprouted out in the 20th century. I couldn't find anything from the Middle Ages. It's brief references of people, but anyway, why was I talking about weapons? Ranger, thank you. I still love the Ranger as a class. I love that idea. The idea of having a two-weapon fighter is awesome. It's like, ching, 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 ching. It's in a Hollywood sense.
Yes.
Even though the reenactor in me wants to die inside every time I do it. And I actually prefer that kind of Ranger to the traditional bow Ranger, because for me, if you want to be all bowy, go play an elf. I'm a traditionalist.
Wow.
No, I mean... I find bows less interesting in fantasy because, and in the same way that firearms don't make as good an RPG content as sword fighting does. Sword fighting is fucking awesome for Hollywood type narrative. It's more personal combat. There are only so many ways you can describe combat at all anyway, but you've got a lot less ways of describing range combat because it's just you. There's no...
You just fire
opponent.
stuff.
Like, I aim my bow and I take steady aim and I help... how many ways can you describe that are interesting? I would argue none.
Although, interestingly, when I pick a character that does have some sort of long-range weapon, I tend to go with crossbow more than a regular bow.
Yeah. But interesting thing, I think, in terms of D&D, is they very much talk about different crossbows to us Europeans.
Yeah.
Because D&D, has, and this is where there's a historical divergence, because America didn't really have the crossbow
No.
in the same way we had it here. So they talk about hand crossbows.
Yeah, like
and
one-handed
small
crossbows.
light crossbows. And you look at the damage output of crossbows in traditional D&D. I mean, I wonder if I can find the
Not
weapons
that
table in this
much.
book. Oh, it's ridiculously low.
It's like,
just looking.
it's a
weapons.
crossbow.
Right, and then equipment. Hang on.
As in,
somewhere.
an arrow is firing really fast at you,
Yeah,
and
but
it does like a d6 damage or something. It's wow.
this is a cultural difference. So weapon type, crossbow. They have light crossbow and heavy crossbow, right? In old school, this is first edition. Light crossbow 1d4 plus 1.
Wow.
Heavy crossbow
Worse.
1d6 plus 1. And the thing is, if you think about the kind of crossbows they're referring to, makes sense. Right? But it's not the European war crossbows. Those things kill people with guns. Right? You big, heavy, you needed ratchets to load them, and yeah, they were preferred over firearms for a long time. Incredibly, but they were heavy things.
Yeah.
And where sort of Gary Gygax, not kind of knowing this when he first sort of wrote this stuff out, was thinking, you know, light crossbow is a little hand one, heavy crossbow is one you hold two-handed. Didn't get the concept of just how powerful these things are.
Well, even the smaller ones, you know, an arrow is fired really fast.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, you know, a crossbow, you can't fire an arrow, it would shred it to pieces. You've got to use a bolt, they're thicker and heavier.
Well, yes, in your
you know, because they would literally just shatter. They're that powerful. You know, more powerful than early firearms. Right.
Hello, N20 Games.
Hi, gosh, yes, all the old timers coming back tonight. This is awesome.
Fame and fortune are indeed both F words.
Thank you for the comments you put on the videos. I did read them. Didn't get to reply
Yes,
because
thank
I was
you.
at work, but thank you. So.
James said the last praise was to us too.
Oh,
goody, thank you.
It's
Namaste.
not all about AJ tonight overshadowing us.
And we say hello back. AJ, oh, they live again. In They Live, the character becomes aware due to special sunglasses made by an underground rebellion that the world is run by transdimensional aliens. Oh, that reminds me a bit of that that thingy episode. I suppose that was more Matrix as well. South Park, where they did the whole Stan drank a load of Jameson's. Is it Jameson's whiskey?
Isn't there a thing in Hunger Games like that as well in the very last one?
I think so.
And
I
assaulting
don't
the
really
city,
remember.
City, even at the end. N20 Games, I prefer the Two-Fisted Rangers 2. Hell yeah! But what are they going to do to fix that class? That's I'm curious to know now. Because what they published in Unearthed Arcana a few years ago, I really disliked. It basically turned the Ranger into a pet class. And it's like, I don't mind that as another kind of archetype option. Sure, have a pet class. You could have an int caster pet class as well, you know, some kind of summoner. Sure, I'm okay with that. But what I really like about the Ranger are the really crappy wisdom spells they can cast. And they ditch them in the Unearthed Arcana Ranger.
Yeah.
I like those, but they're utilitarian and interesting.
They're useful.
And they add character. And it's not like they're a powerful caster. They're really not. They're little things like long striding, you know, the running faster, jumping, and silly little magic things that are just useful, and they add flair to the character. And of course, they make each ranger unique because you've got very few
your own
spell
things.
slots and prepared abilities as a ranger, because you're really not a caster at all. You're not even a hybrid, because you're really balanced towards the combat side. So, you know, just these couple of spells you can cast add so much character to the class.
Indeed. Scott says, I like crossbow use in Willow. Kilmer sets up a few to auto trigger, then fires a few he had ready, and then went straight into melee combat. That sounds a bit far fetched to me.
No, I mean that's totally how early firearms would.
Oh,
would
right,
work.
okay.
You know, if you think about
Like,
ship combat and stuff, you'd fire your musket once or
Mhm.
your pistol, whatever, and then you'd be sword fighting and stuff. You know, and that kind of thing. That's utterly reasonable. In military engagements, a crossbowman tended to be a crossbowman. But they'd still be armed with close quarter weapons in case they got charged by cavalry or something. So, yeah, that makes sense. And we've caught up on the chat. So, you wanted to talk about Pride.
Yes. And interesting you mentioned Baldur's Gate, because there was that thing a couple of years ago which caused a lot of people to get really mad.
What thing was that?
The inclusion of an LGBT character. And this has
yeah.
been a topic that's come up again this week on social media of, okay, well, how do you put in LGBT PCs and NPCs?
It comes up every couple of months.
Yeah, and of course with it being Pride Week, you know, there's lots of that going around. You get people come out of the woodwork saying, oh, well, yeah, but why should we pander to 4% of the population and all this stuff?
What I have to say, though, with this topic, every time it's raised, there is a pattern of people want to give their opinion.
Of course they do.
But nobody ever actually reads. And that is because the two sides are entrenched and you're never going to move anyone over from one to the other.
Mm.
And the sad reality is there are two sides on this topic. I don't think there should be,
Well, no,
but they
exactly.
don't think there should be either. You know, I'm on one side of that debate, and
I mean, it's not a debate at all.
not to me, but it isn't to them either. And it's like, that's wrong. That's nah. And they appear to feel the same. And that's the problem with this debate. Whenever it comes up, and you try and act like a decent, rational human being, and apparently that's an insult to somebody else. And it's like, you can't debate this, because when you do, it's just a shouting match.
The thing that annoys me is when it's brought up as a political thing. Like, I don't want politics in my games.
Oh yes, there are only two genders, men and political.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Or automatically LGBT means sexual.
Yeah.
It's like, sorry, straight people do sexual things all the time. Like,
Holding hands in public, disgusting people.
like straight people, like if straight people see like a little, I know, 5-year-old girl and she starts to go and talk to a little boy, they go, "Oh, is it your boyfriend?" and stuff like that. So yeah, don't give me that rubbish.
Straight people kiss in public, disgusting. Yeah, they do, and what's the problem? Live and let live.
Yeah. But also, like, people talk about, okay, how do we put this in as, like, PCs and NPCs and things like that. It's not all just people saying, no, I don't want it in my game or whatever. So, I personally think because people like us play the game, then absolutely there should be characters in there.
Yeah, represent for the B.
Yeah, exactly. Represent. I mean, yeah. I think for me personally, the whole sort of topic of trans and playing a trans person would be a bit too close to reality for me.
The one thing I said on the most recent debate to come up, I just made one point, and that was inclusion does not necessarily mean positive inclusion.
No, definitely not.
And that is something that I think, like, if you want to do LGBT in your world, and you aren't on the LGBT spectrum yourself, I think there's a potential problem in that. Because you don't necessarily have the understanding and the experiences that somebody who does, who is LGBTQIA, if you haven't had those experiences, can you do it justice as a role player? Because if you've not lived through prejudice and oppression and difficulty in getting treatment, being told that you're scientifically incorrect when you literally have read the science and understand it, and all these other things
Yeah.
that
That we mutilate ourselves, that we're deluded.
and there are so many factors where like even people are supportive, say like the same handful of things over and over, and you've lived through all of that. But as a GM, if you haven't, how can you do it justice?
I think that's what people were asking, really, more to the
Well,
point.
The reality is you can't, and because and oftentimes if one of your players has been through life as an LGBT person and brings that to the table, and let's say they do some amazing quality role play, and they're on a character arc that touches on an LGBT theme, but that roleplay is then going to bounce off non-LGBT people who might not understand the consequences of what that character arc and what that person who's playing that character is trying to do. And that's something I've seen at the table before, where the GM just didn't understand the context of how the player was role-playing. And that there is always the danger when a cis white person tries to play a minority of falling into the tropes that they've been taught.
Yeah, it's the same
Hollywood.
that people have also mentioned about if you're playing someone with a disability.
Mm.
It's the same sort of thing,
Yeah.
and that you fall into the there must be a wheelchair or something, something like that. It's
Hollywood
like, no.
has given us certain tropes. Trans people in particular are presented in Hollywood in a very limited number of ways. In almost all instances, it's got a little better lately. I've noticed there was a TV show where there was some good representation. I'm told that John Wick 3 has a positive representation of a trans character, but you don't have to go back far to films like Ace Ventura and Pet Detective and things like that, where the trans people were included for a joke, to make a dick joke, or to almost always as killers
or sex
or
workers.
Get killed, and those standard tropes. And unfortunately, I have seen people who aren't LGBT play trans characters to those tropes, and
Yikes.
because that's their understanding, because that's what Hollywood has given us. So not all inclusion is positive. And that's the point I wanted to make. And as such, it can be very difficult if you're considering putting LGBT characters into your world, and it's not an issue that you understand on a profound level. Then maybe don't.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a fair point. I think, like back a few years ago, it was all about we should get more women into role playing, and I think there was a bit more of a thing of female characters also played by men, and you had this thing of, well, a cis man has gone through a different sort of upbringing and life to a cis woman because of male privilege, and therefore is he able to really role play a woman particularly well?
I'm sure there are some guys who can.
Absolutely, but there are, like with you, with
Many more
the trans characters. I've seen men attempt to roleplay as women, and it was terrible. Because they, again, just went on the stereotypes of, like, being all sort of cowardly and not being very helpful, and emotion, and nothing else, and... Yes. That kind of went on a bit of a...
Like, for me,
depressing turn.
I will put LGBT characters into my world. And often my players don't know what sexuality I have internalized somebody as being.
Well, no,
because it doesn't often come up if my characters are straight, as some are. you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But I have black people in my world too. I
Yeah.
paint some of my minis black. I paint
Yeah,
some
same,
Asian.
same.
Never had an Asian person in our group, but I still paint minis Asian
Yeah.
because I've said it before. But I want my games to represent the world I live in.
Well, it was like my character Felix had relationships with men, but it was just like it was just a thing that was established of okay, yes, you have a relationship with Prince King or his son.
Yeah, that was his. Oh, yeah, was it his son or was it Prince King? I think it was Prince King.
It was Prince King.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the father was King.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
King.
Yes. King.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the
But that's all it was, and it became a story. And okay, yes, it just so happened there were sexual things in it because ours was quite sort of adult themed. There was a whole porn thing that my character had filmed with him, and
it
then
was quite kinky.
yes, and then it went up. There was that bit where I got the others to dress in bondage clothing, if you remember rightly.
Yeah.
And that was hilarious. But anyway, but in many scenarios, if you're say playing an LGBT character or not a cishet person, you know, it can just simply be you're attracted to a certain person or a certain gender, or you know, you might see yourself as something that you're not. Do you keep that to yourself? Do you sort of express yourself in different ways, wear different clothes? You know, quite a modest thing almost, in that it's just look, this is who I'm attracted to. This is how I choose to present myself.
I mean, I think when you understand a topic, then I think role playing it is fine. The problem is, you know, with anything in life, we go through stages of learning. There are things that I do not know that I don't know.
Absolutely.
And I think with particularly some of the less well-known parts of the LGBT spectrum, that is an issue. You know, I've seen plenty of people try to roleplay trans characters because that's in their consciousness. I've never seen somebody try to roleplay an intersex character.
No, that's very true.
The reality is, you know, I think in many ways most characters are asexual in that it's not something that comes up.
No.
And, you know, that's okay because it doesn't come up. And it's not a driver or a key component of the character.
Yeah, but then you get a lot of like male characters that have flings and stuff with like barmaids and things. There's all of that.
Oh yeah, the old barmaid thing. But
yeah.
I guess my point is that if you want to explore something, then just make sure you understand it first. And if that means taking some time to research a topic to actually understand it, then do so. But if you're going to try and take something that has two sides to the argument, and you want to play as one side of that argument, then you really shouldn't be factoring in the other side, because you're playing as that side. So with an LGBT character, if you're going to play an LGBT character, that means understanding the point of view and the science and everything as presented by LGBT people, not as presented by people who argue against them. We are miles behind on chat.
Ronnie says, it's not about pandering to the 4%, in my opinion. It's about showing the diversity of the world. The world is more than just one gender or one ethnicity or one sexuality. Indeed. And also, 4% is a lot of people. Like...
Also, I think that number's too low.
Well, quite possibly, but I think I heard someone say it was 4%. There are plenty of people who are not out, for one thing. There are people who, say, are out, but they're not on some official statistic. There's so many more people than that, and even then, there are people who fit in, say, a 4% category.
Well, how many people on the planet? 8 billion, right? That's how many sexualities there are. That's how many genders there are. Like the whole grouping male and female is a convenience for simplicity, and because of that, it will never fit everyone properly.
No.
Scott Poe says, it is also a debate that history keeps having about minority groups having right, which they ultimately end up getting, so let's just skip to the end. I do agree with that, but here's the thing, I don't think it's necessarily that history keeps having, it's the people who have all the rights keep having
Yeah,
about those
because
who don't.
they think that people like us are asking for special privileges because of the fact we're voicing we should have this, we should have that, because they take things for granted that we wouldn't necessarily have. They never have to think about it. And that's why they see it as a special right.
But the people with the power have always argued just how much power those who haven't got it should have. That's what's ultimately it is. Lord Morbius.
Lord
Hello,
Morbius is very
Sorry
late.
for being late to the game. Waves animatedly and came into the heaviest part of the conversation.
Yes.
So, a good actor can play any role. A bad actor can't play any role convincingly, even one that was experienced in real life. There is definitely a truth to that, and I do agree with it. Like, if somebody is inherently not a good role player, they're not going to suddenly role play well because they're doing something they understand. They're still going to do. And so I do agree with that. But I don't think if you're necessarily, let's say you're a good actor, but you have strong opinions on a certain topic, I don't think you'll necessarily roleplay the other side of that opinion very well. A character with the other side of that opinion. Ronnie says, whilst it is true I don't have the personal experience, I do have empathy, and that at least can give me some insight.
Well, yeah, because you're willing to listen and things like that. There's a wonderful, very insightful chart of how well informed a cis person is on trans rights, and I'm sure there's something for LGB as well, but it's one I've seen where it sort of goes right from the side of no, I don't think transgender is a thing, it doesn't exist, it's all the way up to I actively seek to help and things like that. It's sort of levels of awareness.
Scale, but what was on this chart?
Oh, things like
in terms of where was the data?
What's in the data?
Were you saying this was a chart or?
Well, it's like a spectrum thing of I don't know, like ways cis people regard trans people and transness.
Okay.
So like the whole "you're so brave" thing, for example, kind of fits near the middle.
Okay.
Or like a bit further down is something like, I'm okay with them as long as it's not shoved down my throat type thing, or nobody in my family is anyway.
But it applies to everything. It's the 4 stages of learning. You go through unconscious ignorance, and then because you don't know something, and you don't know it, and then you find out about it, but you still don't know that thing.
So it's conscious ignorance.
I now become aware that LGBT people exist, but I know nothing about it. And then you go through conscious competence. That's the next stage of learning. So let's say you're learning about mathematics. At this point, 6 plus 6 is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 6 plus 6 is 12, right?
That's 11 that you counted there. You did that. Should be that.
I counted an extra 6, that's 6.
Oh, I see.
Started at 6.
Oh, right.
Right?
But I went
and then
6,
you get
7,
to
8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Unconscious competence.
Yes.
That's where it's 6 plus 6. I know the answer is 12. I don't need to count it. Right? I know the answer. It's just become unconscious, and I think if you're going to play any minority person, then you need to be on that. If not the last step, then close to it.
At least.
And that's the problem. Like I don't think I would ever consider playing a black character myself. I'll put black NPCs into a world. I don't think I consider playing a black character as a player character, because although I do have some understanding, and I can relate to some aspects, I know that I am either on some things I'm being unconsciously ignorant, or
Yeah, I've played a couple
not
of people of color, but the cultures were sort of far removed from the real world, so it didn't really apply. But I agree in that I wouldn't want to do one in a campaign necessarily. Those were both one shots, where you kind of go into a lot of like a backstory.
I wouldn't want to play a modern day RPG.
No, absolutely
as a
not.
black person
No.
who's grown up in Brixton.
No,
I mean,
because
you could say that RPGs are about relating to, and about discovering new experiences, and they're a way of exploring these things. And yes, that's true, but
that's maybe not the right way to do
I don't want
it.
to play a black person from Brixton because I could have a black person from Brixton in my group.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I'm insulting to that. And even if they're not currently, they might join.
And the same with like sexuality and stuff. You could be portraying being gay in quite a stereotypical way without actually realizing that someone across the table from you is gay.
Anyway, where were we?
Anyway,
Scott Poe. Wow, I had no idea this conversation would get
so deep.
I'm sorry. AJ Pickett. This one time at a lady's house, her parent bit my face because I refused to let it drink spit from my mouth. That was my line in the sand.
wow.
Lord Morbius. Then again, orientation never really played a big role in my games because the focus was on heroic fantasy, and orientation is just flavour for role-playing to add to the heroic adventure. And this is, that's why I say most characters ultimately are asexual. Even NPCs that I've decided are gay behind the scenes don't necessarily get revealed in the same way as if I've decided they're straight. That's just the thing, and there's some surprise over AJ being bit in the face.
Ooh.
Lip was bleeding. He just left the house. Yeah, fair.
Did you draw a line in the sand?
Yeah, outside the house.
There you go.
The bird comes out, I shoot.
She loved that bird. Oh, past tense. Oh. I sense some revenge happened there.
When he says, I may have been spoiled with regards to my players, as I've always had a very diverse group covering many different sexual orientations, genders, ethnicities, and religious persuasions. Yeah, I mean...
That is a good thing, yes.
Yeah. It's great. I think we've been lucky as ourselves in that. I say lucky, really, no, it's not a matter of luck. We just go out and talk to people. Some of them aren't white.
For example.
Yeah.
Lord Morb says, I was playing in a play-by-post online game on Facebook a few years back. This one character said, this looks tough. Does anyone have a magic item that might help? I'm not sure if that's related to this or something else.
I don't know.
Elaborate, please.
Oh,
oh, right. It carries on. Okay. My mage pulls out his wand and shook it at her and said, baby, this wand is for you. All of a sudden, I found myself banned for being rude. Right.
No comment?
I mean, that's pretty unsubtle, let's be honest.
I think rule 1 of comedy, know your audience.
Yeah.
Scott Poe, I think most of my characters are asexual, honestly. Only a few have bothered pursuing relationships. Most have been married to Danger Baby.
Danger is my middle name.
In 20 games. Glad I could be here even for a short while. I have a game in about half an hour.
Oh, lucky.
To get ready for. Or... the short version of that, the TLDR, this got heavy down my mouth. Have a great great game. Lord Morbius. Show
Show
some
some
love for
love.
the host by clicking the like and sub buttons.
Otherwise, they might stop making videos.
I was just stuck on sub buttons for a moment there. I was thinking, Dom, sub, are we talking about that too?
Dirty
Moving on.
mind.
Moving
I didn't think that.
AJ Pickett, demi-humans are not really minorities in the game world. They have their own culture, history,
Yeah.
and society.
Half elves.
Yeah, I mean,
For
I
example.
do like using them as substitutes if I want to explore issues of racism, sexism, or, homophobia, transphobia, and so on. Using a fantasy substitute is a great way of exploring how those things work, because they work on basically the same mechanics when it comes to hate and misunderstanding and ignorance. So it's, if I want to explore that with a particular group of players, fantasy substitutes are a great way of doing it. It's not something you particularly, I think, need to revisit many times with a group, or maybe you just want to have worlds that feel more real and you want to put some cultural hatreds in there, or not cultural hatreds but some prejudices within your world, or characters that it just feels right to have a prejudice. I will generally do that, or NPC characters I will generally do that with a fantasy substitute, because and I've said this before, but like I don't want to put a racist NPC in the world, and because how's that going to be for somebody who experiences racism? You've just removed the escapism, but you can deal with the topic, and you can introduce NPCs that have prejudices just with a fantasy substitute. And you can make a fantasy demi-human into a minority within a region if you want, in order to achieve that effect. But you can argue that it can work in reverse the other way and all that other kind of stuff, and you can explore those issues all you like in your game worlds with those tools, whilst maintaining escapism for people who are actually subject to actual abuse in their lives. Yep, got too heavy for Phil.
No, I think he was saying bye to N20. There you go, see? So long.
Okay. AJ, I think wagging your wand at anyone is a pretty bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, if you've read the friggin' Harry Potter fan fiction where
Gosh.
you've got wands,
And potion bottles, I guess.
well, actually, no, it's not even that. It's when you think of a wand as a penis, and then suddenly it's hilarious. It's like, oh yes, Harry trembled with his wand. He says, this is why I like Warforged, custom made for an asexual character.
Yeah, but I'm not actually that keen on Warforged. I think I've mentioned this before.
Yes,
I
you
just,
have.
if I want to play droids, I'll do it in Star Wars. It's a better setting.
I do like the droids actually in Star Wars, like the when you make
If
them with
it's the
mechanics.
setting, fine, and you've got things for droids to do. There isn't things for droids to do in fantasy. Just gets in the way of the healer. I'm sorry, you need repair skill. Lord Morbius said, I said it was all tongue-in-cheek at the OSC forum and they banned me for being rude there as well. I can't comment, wasn't there,
Well,
didn't
yeah,
see
exactly.
it. Screenshots, dude, screenshots.
We can't see the posts.
AJ said, you rolled a natural one on reading that situation, Lord Morbius. Sounds like it.
Yeah, indeed.
Have either of you played a drow?
Nope.
Yes. It was a convention when I played a drow. It's the only time I can recall doing it. And I played a drow. I played the ranger. And the party was good. You can tell where this is going. So it was impossible to do anything in that group without somebody saying, oh, that's what Drizzt would do. oh, you're so drizzed. It's like, no, I'm just trying to just play an adventure. I'm trying not to talk enough because like anything I do is drizzt. So I'm trying to just be a wallflower and just,
Oh dear.
yes. Oh, we lost
Oh
our chat.
no.
Oh, that means you get a graphic. Let's have that one. Oh, but no, we did that one earlier.
Okay, yeah. We have more
chat's back.
comments.
So, Lord Morby says, I have played the most rare of drow characters, the evil, rotten bastard, instead of the good ranger outsider character most others seem to go for.
The only experience I've had of a drow is that hilarious boss battle where there was a drow just standing with his back turned to me, and I was playing a rogue in 3.5, so I stealthed up and did a sneak attack and got a natural 20 and killed him outright.
So you killed the drow as opposed to playing them?
Yeah, that was my only experience of a drow, and the DM's like, that was supposed to be a boss battle!
Oh dear.
Yeah. That was hilarious. The party were all Lolth cultists on a quest to vanquish Lolth's enemies, the excuse for working together.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah, I've done evil campaigns before. I generally find, though, that because different players interpret what evil means in different ways, it can end up with infighting and stuff. So be careful with that. Make sure you're session 0.
Drow are people of colour, Becky.
I paint all of my dark elves as blue.
You do, yes.
I think to just say, oh, because they've got blue skin, therefore it's coloured and it's their experience, therefore is as a black person would experience, is really undermining the experience of black people. That's not doing it justice. I think because drow are a fantasy substitute, it's one way you can deal with prejudice, but you could do it, and I generally don't use dark elves for this. I'll generally use orcs because players will frequently exhibit that prejudice themselves without me having to introduce a world in which, let's say, halflings or gnomes or elves are hated. I've played in game settings where elves were hated, and the GM had to introduce that to us. But if you throw orcs in a setting, players are naturally prejudiced. Don't have half orcs, have civilized orcs just trying to get by, and the players will do the prejudice for you without you having to set the scene up.
Except our group, because you're better than that.
Well, they are now, but I originally used orcs with them to explore issues of prejudice.
I don't mean the real life group.
Oh.
I meant the Clockwork Saga thing. With the orc tribes and stuff.
Yes, absolutely. I'm out of here. Have a great evening, you two legends. Oh,
enjoy your fish and chips.
The person who was definitely most legendary tonight has called us legends.
Bye bye.
Have a great evening, day, morning for you. Drow are elves of colour. I mean, yeah, elves of colour. Emphasis on elves, and yeah, moving on.
See you later.
Ta-ra!
So long, AJ. Here
come
all the bye, AJs. Bye, AJ. Elves are not
me and how amazing I am.
Elves are not people.
There's the elven prejudice I was saying you could use.
Lol. Elves are their own thing. All you people prejudiced against elves, what did they ever do to you?
I think we need to find something positive to end the stream on.
Okay, but let's make it fairly quick because I am getting very tired.
Yes. Also, I need to Google for something positive after that. I mean, seriously.
Okay.
Look, it's Pride Month. LGBT people exist.
Yep, there are still terrible things happening to us in the world, and that's why we have Pride. I keep looking at the camera rather than the microphone rather than the camera. So just be accepting to other people who don't necessarily have the same upbringing or situations as you in life. Because we all have red blood running through our veins. It's all the same.
We all have red blood. Let's end on that.
Okay.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you next
Bye.
week, where we'll talk more lightheartedly about RPGs, and then we'll diverge onto different topics randomly.
Mm-hmm.
Take care. Have great weeks, and we'll see you there. Oh, you're not here next week.
Oh, yes, I'm not.
I'm going to do something a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I think, if I get time to sort things out and organise it.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.